All right, welcome to the Kreuger Show. After Warrior basketball, Warriors lose to the Kings in the capital city. Welcome to the Kreuger Show. Damon Bruce alongside. Cy Sotsis might be here at some point. Frank Red. Danny's going to jump in. Carl Foster got T-boned by a young driver, and I don't know if Carl's going to be able to join us or not. Baller has a brand new baby. He's not going to be able to join us tonight. But we get it rolling after the Warriors season comes to an end and after the Dynasty officially comes to an end. And, of course, we're brought to you by Pig and a Pickle, the best barbecue in all of Northern California. Check them out in Emeryville and Corte Madera. They're open 7 days a week. Go say hi to Damon and Mary. Get your brisket and tell them that Krug sent you. We're also, of course, brought to you by Marin Auto Glass and Underdog Fantasy. Check the link in the description. Use that promo code Krug. And KRUEG, and they'll match you up to your first $100. And we're brought to you by Sharp Corner Sports Cards and Collectibles down in the Monterey Peninsula, Pacific Grove to be exact. Call Anthony Catania for all your collectible needs. 831-521-5264. What do you say about this one? Damon, it's funny. I went on last night on a show in Sacramento. And we had a good time. We talked a lot, and they were very nervous up in Sacramento. It was the King's Court, the King's Court with Rhino. And then, they had Jerry Reynolds and Grant Napier on, and they were all very nervous. Why? Because the Kings had lost to the Blazers. They weren't playing well. They weren't playing well at home, and they had me on, and they're like, "What do you think?" And I'm like, "I like the Kings. I mean, I saw Steph against New Orleans. He rolled his right ankle. He's old. He's looked really gassed and tired and old the last couple of weeks. I envisioned the exact kind of night that we got out of Klay Thompson, and I told those guys, I said, the Warriors roster has nobody in their prime except for Wiggins. They're too old. They're too young. And the Kings have more guys in their prime. And I know and in the second quarter, I was starting to doubt myself because the Kings have so little offensive firepower. The Kings are going to lose to the Pelicans, by the way, in the next game. But they, the Keon Ellis really did a nice job. I thought Mike Brown did a great job putting Keegan on Curry and just, basically smothering Curry with a much, much bigger defender. And Sacramento gets a comfortable win. They blew them out. They're lighting the beam, as my brother would say. And, frustrating game if you're a Warrior fan, but the end of an era, and it was an incredible era.
I think you buried the lead, brother.
Go ahead.
Everything that you just said is right. Klay Thompson 0 for 10, 0 for Sacramento in what is, I think, possibly going to be his last game in a Golden State Warriors uniform. If that's how it ends, what a brutal finish for Klay, for his spectacular Warriors career to have ended. I don't normally feel bad for guys that I cover, I feel bad for Klay Thompson tonight. That is a tough way to go out. And that's where the game was decided, I think, as much as anywhere. Everything you said is in play, and we'll break it all down. We'll talk about this, quite a bit here. But just Klay Thompson 0 for 10. Like, that can't happen. That can't happen in a game that the Warriors need to win.
He's never taken, by the way, in his career, he's never taken 10 shots and made 0 in his entire career. How about that?
It's just brutal. Again, it's as bad of a last game that any player could possibly have in possibly their last game for a team on which they were absolutely a pivotal, historically significant figure of. This is a statue. Klay Thompson gets a statue for the Golden State Warriors. And, what's the difference between really good and great? I promise you, in Steph Curry's final game with the Golden State Warriors, he won't go 0 for 10. It's too bad that Klay did. Really is. Beyond that, I'd like to thank Andrew Wiggins for stepping up with nothing in a big moment once again. Chris Paul is going to be the most exposed expiring contract of all time. He is just, he's getting his pocket picked out there. That's not Chris Paul anymore. That's just a guy at this point in his age and his career. And I think it's going to be an offseason of massive change for the Warriors, Larry. I think it's going to be an offseason of massive change. What that is and how they go about it, I'm going to need some prep hours before I'm really ready to answer either of those questions. But this is...
Well, they don't have any options.
Yeah.
The one
option is the one lever that they're not going to pull, right? The one option would be...
Are they not going to pull it?
I don't think so. I think that Joe Lacob draws the line in front of that business.
Okay. But, I mean, you saw in the game tonight who played well. Jonathan
Kuminga all around.
Jonathan Kuminga, Moses Moody, Brandon Pajemski, Trace Jackson Davis got 11 minutes. I knew Kerr was gonna absolutely gaff, and I'm sure Cyrus will comment on this, but I knew Kerr was going to question the decision to go with Trace Jackson Davis and go back to Looney. Sure enough, he went back to Looney. Trace Jackson Davis played a couple minutes early. That was it. Back to the pine. So it's like, I don't know if Trace Jackson Davis, if the moment was too big, because Kerr took him off the floor and only played him 11 minutes. But I kind of saw that coming. I knew that was coming.
You don't play 11 minutes for someone that is as good as Trace is, that is as developed as Trace is. This game did feel big for him, and it should have, because it was. It's the biggest
game 7. It's basically game 7 in his first playoff appearance.
Exactly. And it's a shame that Steve Kerr pulled the plug on him, just straight up pulled the ripcord for what? Kevon Looney comes in and gets 5 rebounds, but then you just go full on small ball. You can't play small ball if shots aren't falling. I was on with Ryan in Sacramento this afternoon. I missed going on with Grant. We keep on missing each other like ships passing in the night. But I was on with Ryan this afternoon, and I said, look, there's 2 things I'm confident in. Only 2 things. And this is going to sound pedestrian. This is going to sound real simple, but sometimes simple explains it all, Larry. Number 1, both of these teams are capable of sucking tonight. Like, both these teams are capable of stabbing themselves in the foot all night long, stepping on their own dicks. We know that. The inconsistency is the hallmark of both of these teams this year. The second thing is, I thought it was real simple, but the team that's going to hit the most threes is going to win this game. And sure enough, the team that hit the most threes won the game, and just a brutal way for Klay to stop. But it does suck that Trace got 11 minutes. 11 minutes. It should have been more for Trace. Even in a bad night, Trace learning how to play in a big game that you're on your way to losing is more important than, I think, a lot of the decisions that could have been made tonight.
Keon Ellis looked good. I thought he looked good in his size and length. He's coming on. He's an athlete. He's raw, but he's an athlete. Sacramento has no bench. It was like one of the deepest teams in the league against one of the thinnest teams in the league. The second quarter couldn't end fast enough for Sacramento. My God. It was just like they just have no ability to score at all. And Pelicans are taking them down absolutely in the next game Friday night. No doubt in my mind. But huge win for Mike Brown, huge win for the Kings, a huge win for that franchise. The announcers were saying it's their biggest win in 17 years. Think about that for a second. And now Golden State's got to decide, it's like, what's, and the only thing I like Joe Lacob, but he just is so smug when he talks about his team. And it's like, dude, no, you're wrong. You're not going to continue to contend forever. Just because you want to doesn't make it so. And they've got nothing. They've got no assets. Green's old. Nobody wants him. Thompson's old. Nobody wants him. Curry obviously is old. There are plenty of teams that would take him. So what do you got? You
I
can move
think Draymond,
Wiggins.
Draymond
I don't want
would
to
have
move
to
Trace
shake.
Jackson Davis. I don't want to move Moody. I don't want to move Kuminga, and I don't want to move Pajemski. And when Mike Dunleavy dials around the league to canvass the league for trade opportunities, he's going to be asked for those guys, and he doesn't want to trade any of them. So,
And I don't want him to trade any of those young guys.
I don't either. But I
think
mean,
that Draymond Green would have value on an open market. You could get something for him if the Warriors did that. But then I think the Warriors would be getting rid of their junkyard dog when playing defense and becoming a tougher team is one of the mandatory steps of this offseason. No matter who shows up, no matter who the player is that rescues the Warriors from this particular situation, this team's got to get back to playing some defense, and that's going to be harder to do without Draymond. He still has value either to the Warriors or the league. Klay, I just keep coming back to Klay and how bad he was tonight. That's a shame. I think we've seen the last night of Klay Thompson in a Warriors uniform. I really do.
It's so funny because I was listening to Bonte and Mully and Festus, and they're like, Klay's most likely coming back. It's like, it's over, fellas. It's like it was a hell of a party. The kegs tapped, the food's gone. All the herb has been smoked. It's over. All right. People are filing out the door. Stop trying to pretend like it ain't over. It's over.
Hey, speaking of smoking herb, Dan's here. Hi, Dan.
Hey.
Dan's bringing us stuff. Dan's bringing us stuff. No, but I mean, Danny, good to see you, and thanks for joining us. Welcome to the Kreuger Show, of course, everybody. Frank Red will join us. He's coming back from Marin County. Cy's going to join us after Locked On Warriors finishes being locked on. But this thing's done, and I've always liked Joe Lacob because he's a self-made billionaire. And he looked up to the rafters and said, I'm going to add titles, and then did. And he said, I'm going to build an opulent arena, and did. And so there's many things I really admire about Joe, but we're light years ahead of everybody. Oh, yeah? Prove it now. If you're light years ahead of everybody, then you're going to be able to prove it now. But you're not light years ahead of everybody. You inherited Steph Curry. You inherited an incredible basketball team. And you've gotten a lot out of it. You've built this awesome arena, and it's opulent and expensive. But they got a big decision. I mean, are they going to is it just going to be Steph, dribbling around and shooting on a team that wins no games? And I mean, is that what we're going to be looking at? Because like my kid said to me, Dad, they're going to trade for Paul George. Okay, fine. So they get Paul George. What the hell's that going to do? Is Paul George now added to this mix? And what are you going to get Paul George for? I mean, they're going to want something in return. So I don't know, man. They have no first. I think they may have a second.
They don't have a first this year?
No. They got no first round draft choice. They've got a huge bloated payroll. It's the highest payroll in the league. I think they can still move Chris Paul, if I'm not mistaken. Doesn't he have like a $30 million expiring? So maybe they could trade Chris Paul.
Big fat expiring contract is what he represents.
I think he's like a free agent, but they can still trade him. I don't know. I'd have to, they
have to do it by a certain date. They have to trade him by a certain.
But I mean, it's a young league, and it's like youth was served tonight. And if anything, to me, it was like watching Pajemski and Moody and Kuminga and Trace Jackson Davis for the 11 minutes he was out there. That's your young core that you got to build around. And I don't know. I mean, do you get sentimental? I mean, Joe built such a fancy arena, and it's so goddamn expensive to go there that you got to have a headliner. So you got to have Steph, but does Steph want to be here to the finish line, or would he rather you trade him to the Knicks? You know what I mean? Does Steph want to be here through all of the next, because Steph's got 3 to 4 years left for sure. Does he want to have 3 bad years in Golden State going to the finish line and being just kind of, well, Steph had 22, but the Warriors lost by 19. Or is he going to say, you know what? All things being equal, I'd like to go to Charlotte, or I'd like to go play here. And I could see Draymond going to the Lakers. I definitely could. You could put together a decent deal, Rui and Hood Shafino and a couple. You could get a couple nice pieces coming back that are younger, Jackson Hayes, something like that. You could move Draymond on to the Lakers, and he'd probably play with LeBron and for a year or two. But Mike Dunleavy had an awesome year this year. He got Pajemski at 19. He got Trace Jackson Davis at 57. Great draft. Great first year. Now this year, we're going to find out, what the plan is, because they don't have a lot of assets. I don't see a lot of avenues to get better. I don't want to be doom and gloom, but do you dare consider trading Steph Curry? Or would the fan base rather they move Steph Curry and start new and try to get some pieces? Or do you want to see Steph go to the finish line in a Warrior uniform out of sentimentality? I mean, Bill Walsh always said trade a guy a year too soon, not a year too late. This would be moving him, probably 2 years too late, or, at least a year too, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I don't know how I feel about it.
For that to happen, let's call the trading of Steph Curry, let's give that a code name. What do you want to call that?
Willie Mays was traded.
Right. No, but hold on. But let's say, Operation Hope Not. Let's call that Operation Hope Not.
You could call it Charlie Williams Part 2. That's what they got for Willie.
in order.
Willie was done, though.
In order for Operation Hope Not to occur, I don't think that is executed by just one side. It's not the Warriors going to Steph and saying, we're trading you. It's Steph and the Warriors having a long conversation about what would be best for him, what might be best for the Warriors. Because I could also see, here's the thing, I think Steph has a level of loyalty working for him that he will not ask for that trade. The story,
you don't think so?
The story that Rex Chapman told about getting calls for Steph to transfer to bigger colleges his first year after Davidson is something I did a video on. It's an awesome story. Rex Chapman shared it because Chapman and Del Curry both played
the
Hornets together.
Yeah.
And so basically coaches are calling after not even letting Steph walk on. Steph really wanted to walk on to Duke, and Krzyzewski just said, our team's full, sorry. So the next year, they're like, why don't you give that kid in Davidson a call? He had a really good freshman year. And the end of the story is after Rex Chapman goes through Del Curry, and then Del Curry gets back to Rex Chapman about Steph's answer to all coaches who are inquiring about whether or not he would want to transfer. Steph basically says, they didn't want me then. I don't want them now. Fuck them. I just
think about it, man. The Knicks are.
I think he's wired in a way to not ask for that, and I think that Joe Lacob is wired in a way to not ask him for that. So there is an armistice that prevents Operation Hope Not from ever happening. I don't think it happens. I think Steph does. I think Steph is your ride or die chick that you to the wheels roll off to the ground. I see
Willie Mays and Joe Montana both got traded. He's in that category.
Yes.
I mean, Damon, come on. You and I have been covering sports in this market for decades.
Right.
Trading this guy would be like an earthquake.
I don't. It would be a singular moment in time that stops the equivalent of sports time in San Francisco if that were to ever happen.
We have to. I mean, I know it's callous.
I don't think it's going to happen.
Okay, but I know it's callous, and I know it's clickbaity, and you and I try not to be that way. And Danny runs his own channel as well. He's not that way. But I think on a night like tonight, I think it's a question that at least has to be broached. If Steph went to Joe Lacob and said, Joe, I heard Damon's on Larry's show last night, and I agree with Damon. I'm not going to ask for a trade. I'll put it in your hands. I'm okay with whatever you do. I'm okay if you keep me and I finish out my career just trying like crazy to, build this thing into a playoff berth. situation, and I'm okay if you move me on. What's Joe going to do? What's better for the Warriors? And Danny, Damon and I have been going back and forth. You just jumped in. Why don't you give us your thought? You grew up here. You've watched this Warrior team go from losers to winners to a dynasty. If Joe Lacob said to Steph Curry, or if Steph Curry said to Joe, I'm cool with it either way. You want to trade me? I'll sign off on it. You want to keep me? I'll be the good soldier and do what I can to try to win games and make this an entertaining product. What does Joe do?
Well, I think two things. One, I think you have to have the conversation that it gets broached between the two parties. But two, I don't see Joe Lacob throwing in the towel. I see him like saying, doggone it, I got to get better. What do I got to do? And I wouldn't be surprised if somebody like a Giannis gets knocked out by Indiana and Giannis says, I want out. And Joe says, what do I got to do to get Giannis? That's how Lacob
do they have the pieces to get Giannis?
I don't know.
I've heard people suggest bringing KD back.
Kuminga, it would take Pods.
It would take everybody you got.
Yeah, it would take a cupboard.
It would take a few ones down the road. It would take
Steph Curry. If we're being totally honest, the Bucks in that trade are asking.
No, the whole idea though would be to team up Curry and Giannis.
Sure, that's our idea, but I mean,
that's your idea. I don't think it'd be Milwaukee's idea.
But this league isn't about Milwaukee. It's about what the player wants in this league. If Giannis says, "I'm out. I want out. I'm tired of what's happening here," then the team acquiesces to the player. But then it has to be.
You also have to move contracts that are.
You have to figure it out, right? I mean, Paul would be dumped in there just to get rid of the contract, and Milwaukee would let him go, release him, costing him nothing. All those type of things. But I just figure the Warriors are going to try something. I don't see them saying, okay, we're going to try and just rebuild with a player here or there. And
well, I mean, look at it this way. If you move Draymond, let's say you move Draymond to the Lakers, you might be able to get 2 or 3. He makes a lot of money. He makes $24 million. So you're going to have to take back $24 million in salary. You might be able to get 2 or 3, as I said, Jackson Hayes, maybe Rui Hachimura, maybe Jalen Hood Schifino.
2 Hoosiers on the team, Larry. What are you trying to do? Are you trying to make sure I'm never home?
I'm just trying to think of assets the Lakers have that you might be able to make a deal. Maybe you could make a deal maybe you could. I saw that. Ben Simmons has a massive contract.
No. Don't come on, stop that.
Well, I'm just saying you're going to have to go. You're going to have to find somebody.
There's no answer that includes Ben Simmons. That's
okay, but he is a 6'10" guy who can run the point. And if you don't,
not anymore, he can. He's a disaster. He's a mental case.
He is. But I'm just saying, you're going to have to take kind of like a fire sale type player. You're not going to get some coveted player. You're going to have to take some player that the market is way down on. That's for whatever reason. So I don't know.
I just don't see him. I just don't see him trading Curry. I really don't. I just don't see that happening. Tonight's game was one of the fears I had is in a one and done type game. If you're cold, it could be over. And one of the problems with the Warriors tonight was they had no answer for what the Kings were doing, trapping Curry. They were not taking it to the hoop. They were just flinging threes. Guys that shouldn't have been shooting threes were flinging them. Wiggins was throwing them, and Klay was 0 for 10 from the floor tonight. It went cold. And then their defense, they left Kings shooters wide open again. I mean, in this league, anybody, you get 2-3 feet of space to shoot a three. I'm sorry, you're not going to win that game. I don't know what they were doing, but the Warriors did not have any answers for the Kings trapping Curry. And, Curry, what did he have? 6 turnovers?
Dude, the Warriors have, especially with the absence of Gary Payton II tonight, the Warriors got one guy, 1.5 guys, if Draymond's on a good night, who can even bring the ball up the floor. Like Klay Thompson. I don't want to extra rip on him on the worst night of his career. Klay has not spent a day in the NBA knowing how to dribble a basketball at an NBA level. He's been a terrible ball handler his entire career. And when you're 2 guard, you have to use your whatever Draymond is, your 5, your 4 as your backup point guard at all times to handle the ball, because you can't trust Wiggins to do it. You can't trust anybody. Chris Paul's supposed to be the guy who came in there. The Warriors got 1.7 guys on their team who can dribble. And that's been a problem for years. The Warriors used to have an athletic, they haven't had the really good other guard on their court since Sean Livingston. I mean, if we're being brutally honest about this whole thing.
Yeah. By the way, I'm sharing the screen here. This is the Warriors' salaries. So Curry's making $51.9 million. He makes 55.7 next year, 59.8 or 0.6 the next year. So I mean, that's a ton. Thompson's gone. His 43 is off the books at the end of this year. They can move Paul's 30. They can move Wiggins, who's at 26.2. They could move Green at 24.1. They can move Kevon Looney at 8. And then you're getting into the guys you don't want to move, right? Kuminga, Moody, Pajemski, Trace Jackson Davis.
I think your best option out there might
really
be
that's it right there. It's
the best option
Paul, Wiggins, Green, and Looney. Those are the 4 guys that they theoretically could move. And they do make a sizable amount of money. And you could take, if you traded them individually and you got 2 or 3 pieces for each one of them, because they're all making big money, you could fill out your team with some, with some younger players moving on from Paul, Wiggins, Green, and Looney. I think that's other than that, I don't see a lot of options there. We welcome in Frank Red. Frank, thanks for joining us. Of course, Danny and Damon and a lot of people in the chat right now. We got almost 3,000 people in the room right now watching this thing.
Wow.
Lots and lots of people.
Wow.
And Cy's going to join us at some point. But Red, we've been going back and forth, and I went on with Grant and Jerry Reynolds last night on a Sacramento podcast and predicted this. I said, you know what? Warriors are going down because Klay's going to shoot them out. And Curry's hurt and old, and the Warriors are too young, and Kerr showed it. I said Kerr's not going to trust one of his young guys. It happened to be Trace Jackson Davis. And I go, the Warriors have one guy on the entire roster. Andrew Wiggins is the only guy in the prime of his career. And even though Sacramento had no Malik Monk and Sacramento had no Herter, and they, scoring issues galore, they still have in Sabonis, Fox, Murray, Barnes, they still have a core of guys that are in the prime of their career. And I said, that's going to carry the day. Jerry Reynolds was like, I don't know if I believe it, but I hope you're right. And sure enough, it came true. Give me your perspective. You watched this thing. What was your takeaway from the game tonight?
They needed Klay to play well. I don't think Klay's the reason why they lost, but I think they needed him to play well. I've had a problem with Curry's rotations all year.
Yeah.
And I think that was a factor tonight. I think he needs to really take a step back and maybe adjust how he coaches, because Mike Brown knew exactly what he was going to do. And Mike Brown followed the playbook that all other teams have followed with regards to the Warriors. we're not going to let Stephen Curry beat us like he did last year. Everybody know he's tired. And he's probably injured to a certain degree. And they blitzed him. And I was happy to see him have a good second half. But Mike Brown, I thought, along with his assistant coaches, had a phenomenal game plan to stop Warriors. And I think ultimately, you know what? Give Sacramento the credit. I think it was more about what Sacramento did as opposed to what the Warriors didn't do. Keegan Murray looked like a player who is ascending in his second year. Dude had 8 3-point shots. Some of them were uncontested, but a lot of them were contested. And he just looked like a really, really mature player who is not going to be their third best player, but at least their second best player and maybe their best player in some odd years. The Warriors, yeah, they like each other, but that connectedness that they talk about quite a bit, I don't think I really saw that tonight. I saw guys shooting random shots. I saw Klay hunting shots. And when they needed to be together, aligned properly, they just wasn't.
Yeah, Frank, they haven't seen it all year, right? I mean, that connectivity, they're one day, gone the next. And we've seen that all year. Their hallmark has been their inconsistency.
Right.
And you're right about that. I do see, I think it's right of you to absolutely give some serious credit to Sacramento, who have, they backed themselves into this game. And I thought that might be enough, and Malik Monk's absence, to knock them out of this game. No one could have possibly planned for Klay Thompson having the single worst game that he's ever had in a Golden State uniform. I mean, that's the worst Klay Thompson has ever played.
It is.
Full stop. And that sucks that it ends like that for him. And even if he is back, right? Even if there is a faucet of reality that has Klay back next year, he's never going to stop thinking about that game. Like, that's going to bother Klay the rest of his life, that he went 0 for Sacramento in a winter Cancun game. That sucks.
Yeah.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
I mean, I have mixed feelings now. I've been forever. I want Klay back. He should come back. But I want him to go out like Arik Armstead did. If the Warriors are like, okay, Klay, we'll let you come back at this price, but we want you to produce on this level. I don't want that. I want them to jointly come together and say, listen, if you adjust your game, we modify our approach, then we can have success and close this thing out. Otherwise, I want him to go somewhere else based on what I saw tonight.
Let's all, before we move off of this, because you bring up a major talking point of the offseason. He's turned down 2 years, $48 million. He's not worth 2 years and $48 million.
No one's turned that.
And he's turned that, but he's turned that down. He turned his nose to 2 years and $48 million. So give me the number that you want, that you would take him back at. And I'll go first. I'll say 15. I'm at 15 to 20 in that range. And even so, I only want to do a short-term 2-year deal. I don't want to do any kind of long-term deal. But just out of respect for what he's done, I would say an offer somewhere in between 2 years and $15 million. But look at what Drew Holiday just signed for. And that's not happening. He's going to want to be close to what Drew Holiday makes. And Drew Holiday is roughly the same age. He's healthier, but he's roughly the same age. And Klay did finish fast, and you're going to have people go, oh, Klay had a tremendous year and this and that. But I just think that he is such a powerful force on the team as far as, his attitude. And it's like, I just think that he weighed the team down this year as he was kind of trying to find his glory days. And only after Kurt talked to him like 7 times was he finally like, okay, I just got to relax, chill, and enjoy it. Then he started to play a little bit better. But, I just think it's time for the Warriors to.
He can no longer
pull the plug. Pull the plug.
Yeah, it's walk away time. It really is. And tonight was the signature I think, on that decision.
What would you guys offer him though if it came down to dollar? Do you want him? Would you say goodbye, or would you give him 20 million? Would you give him 15 million? Would you get? I mean, obviously everybody's going to go short term. What are you guys thinking on a Klay Thompson, situation? Do you want him to walk, and offer him nothing like the Niners offered Eric Armstead, or do you want him to stay?
I'd rather go 82 games of Moody than Thompson at any price at this point.
I'm with Damon on that. I really believe that.
I would offer him 2 years, 25 million, third-year option at something that they both agreed upon. Because I watched all the games, and guess what? Klay had a 35-game stretch in which he was a top 10, top 12 two-guard in the NBA. The challenge that I have is, can Steve Kerr coach him? And can Klay Thompson reinvent himself? That's the question that I would have. Because I think when you look at his production, again, it's going to be somewhere, with the top 15 two guards. And if you have a Moses Moody, take his ass out and put Moses Moody in because you really believe in him and you've really given him an opportunity to play. Klay's minutes should go down. I don't care what he makes. But Moody has to be given an opportunity that he wasn't given this year. I don't think you can go from 0 to 100 with Moses Moody next year either, because half the year he sat on the bench, he didn't get the opportunity to play.
It's really amazing listening to the announcers too. They're like, and Golden State really has something going with Moody, and it's like, no, guys, you don't get it. Moses barely played. He was DNP coach's decision tons this year. He this was the exception. This was not the rule. They've screwed with him, and that needs to end. Only because Moses is a salt of the earth human being has he not, basically said, get my ass out of here. I mean, they have screwed with his career. If I was his agent, I'd be leaving Dunleavy a long F-bomb laden voicemail tomorrow morning going, my guy is class personified, and you guys need to either play him or trade him. No more of this year anymore for Moses. They've stagnated his career. Now, I'm not feeling sorry for him. He's making millions and life's okay. But you know what I'm saying? They have not done him right.
They haven't.
Well, would you say, he had 30, 35 good games?
Who?
Klay? He was 35 good. Anybody in the NBA's got 35 good games in him in a year. Like, I'm not impressed. You
not on a 46-win team, Damon.
You can't play. You can't
not
play
on a 46-win team.
You can't show up with 35 wins, and that's the best you got in you at the age of 34, and sign a $20 million contract with a team that needs to be taken seriously. We all talked about, it's time for Joe Lacob to make tough decisions. The first tough decision is a pretty clear one. It shouldn't be that tough anymore. It's Klay. I'm sorry, it is.
Well, the question is this, though. Would Joe, at his core, rather win or make money?
That's the question.
Because Klay Thompson and Steph Curry and Draymond Green they're the big three. They're Hall of Famers. They're the brand name deal. They're gonna. Does he prioritize people going through that turnstile to see these guys that just are just about the name on the back of the jersey, or is he really about that next title? And
that's
I
why
don't know. I don't know what the
not going
is.
anywhere. That's why Steph Curry's not going anywhere. No one shows up in the arena saying, "I've just flown 5,600 miles to see you, Klay Thompson." That's not the sign. The sign is, "I just flew 5,600 miles from Korea to see you, Steph Curry." That's the draw.
But is Joe a competitor for a title, or is he sentimental? I get this. I thought as a self-made billionaire that he was all about, kind of like there would be a relative coldness to him. But no, I don't think that's him. I think he's the sentimental guy. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong, but
I think here's the thing. I do think he's going to be sentimental about Steph Curry. That's why that will be the bridge too far, and Operation Hope Not will never come to pass. Klay Thompson is not part of Operation Hope Not. and I think that's the tough choice. And if we're being real about this, I mean, really want to talk like what just happened, not in terms of tonight in one game. And I respect the player. I like the player. But God, he's a baby sometimes, and he's cost the Golden State Warriors 2 years in a row here. Let me tell you, the Warriors are not in this play-in bullshit situation that they found themselves in without having Draymond Green have to disappear for 22 games or whatever. What did he miss? Whatever it was.
He took a roundhouse on Nurkic and missed 25 games this year.
Yeah,
25 games.
That's enough games to be a serious season-altering problem. Last year, the punch-a-pool. This year, the roundhouse left or whatever he threw there. Draymond has done more to help the Warriors win championships than anybody but Steph Curry, and he has done more to derail 2 seasons almost single-handedly. And I would like to draw just a touch of attention here to a second mysterious season in a row, Andrew Wiggins' absence that did not help the team. But I don't think Andrew Wiggins is that big of an impact as Draymond. Draymond has really fucked this up 2 years in a row, if you don't mind me saying, and pardon my French.
How dare you swear on the Kreuger show? Nobody has ever sworn
Yo,
on
listen,
this show.
Gentlemen, I'm okay with everything that everybody's talking about in terms of moving players and, getting younger and getting less expensive, so on and so forth. But I need to have the owner or the head coach to come out and say, listen, this is where we are. We have a star player, a star attraction. We're not going to be very good, right? But to come out every year and say, well, we think that we have a chance to win a championship, but we're going to let Klay Thompson go, and we don't have an immediate player to insert into the lineup to replace him. I'm like, nah. I mean, we all know basketball well enough to know that's not going to happen. So make a decision. You still want to go out and be competitive? Because, Damon, you just said it. If Draymond doesn't miss 25 games this year, the Warriors are probably the 5th or 6th seed, and they're not dealing with this crap that they dealt with tonight. I can see the same scenario next year.
I got to wonder. He reminds me a lot of Shaq in those years. It's like, I almost get to feel like, Shaq had that toe surgery on opening night or something, right? He didn't do it in the summer because he didn't want to play regular season games. I get the sense that Draymond looking at 82 going, you know what, I'm not going to be worth a damn come May if I play all 82. So I'm going to get myself suspended here and suspended there. And I don't know. I love Draymond Green. I think we all do. I love Klay Thompson. I think we all do. I mean, this has been, I grew up in the Sunset District. I was born in 70. And so I didn't really see Rick Barry's 75 team. I was 5 years old. Right. So my first recollection of the Warriors is World Be Free, Bernard King, Joe Barry, Mr. Mean. That's kind of when I started watching, and they were really entertaining. And then, then in the late 80s, you got Nelly and you had Mitch Richmond and Mully and Tolbert and all those guys and the run team.
Marciulonis and
I mean that, and they didn't win. They won, 42 games, but man, it was fun. Yeah. And then it was just a freaking wasteland forever. I mean, literally until Nelly came back and traded for Stack Jack and Al Harrington and the We Believe.
Baron Davis, baby.
Baron Davis. I mean, there's like 5 generations of players in the midst there. I mean, there was so much bad ball. So to see what Golden State has become under Lakeup and under Curry and Kerr is just it's the unthinkable. But now we've seen it. It's like the wave has crested. It's going to shore. And, the next wave looks way, way, way in the distance. And I don't know. I love the show, and I'll be a Warrior fan no matter what they do. But I don't know, man. I personally, I think like it's almost, there's like a sadness to watching players grow old. And I'd almost rather just move them all in individual deals and shuffle the deck and see what you come up with. And if that means moving Curry, then that means moving Curry. And I love Curry, But I mean, the guy makes $51 million. He's
the thing,
great.
Larry,
He's a great player.
You'd be moving Curry. You'd be moving Curry because he would be a tangible asset that would get you a viable return. But the reason why is because Curry's still playing awesome. Like he lost his legs a little bit at the end of this year, but he had to carry more of the load with the absence of Wiggins and Draymond than he should.
Mm-hmm.
He's not LeBron James. He will not be the best player in the history of basketball in his 40s, the way that LeBron is right now. It's just he was asked to.
I need to know who
he got tired. He's still an awesome player. Like
no, I realize, which is why it's like. I think it's at least worth finding out if somebody wants Steph, what are they offering? I think it's at least worth finding out.
He's not going anywhere.
Is there
finding out, but he's not going anywhere.
But I mean, does he want to be a figurehead on a losing team or does he want to be, does he want to play in the Garden? The Knicks have put together a pretty nice situation there in New York. And it's like, wait a second, you could move Steph Curry to the Knicks and maybe get some pieces back. I don't know. I mean, I'd at least want to find out who's interested and what are they offering? And is it in any way palatable? I don't know. I mean, I know that's heresy, but as I said, Willie Mays was traded. Joe Montana was traded. All careers come to an end. What do you guys really think Steph Curry's got left? Maybe 3 or 4 years? Does he want to be on a losing team for the final 3 years of his career?
I think Steph Curry's got, hold on. I think Steph Curry may have 6 years left in his career. I think he's got another contract. It won't be a max contract. He won't be making $60 million a year in that contract. But I think Steph can hit corner threes in the NBA and be a spot up shooter till the cows come home. If that's the way he wants to do this, I think he could do that. But I think he's looking at the totality of his career as a historical figure. And Steph almost now at this point in his career, with all the winning that he's been the center of, gets, I think, more extra basketball universal credit for being a career warrior than trying to chase one more ring in another city. I think he looks at Kobe, and that's part of the story that he admires the most, right? Kobe was a career Laker. Tony Gwynn, career Padre. It adds a level of romance to a player that is exclusive to very few players, and it's the one thing that officially separates him from LeBron. LeBron bounced around 3 different teams. Steph Curry, 1 team ever.
Yeah, and Kobe played on a lot of crappy teams at the end.
He did.
Let me say this. I think Curry has 3 more years, and that's it. Now, could he play 4 or 5 more? Yeah. But I think he has 3 more, and I'm going to tell you why. My first job as a 13-year-old was a caddy growing up on Long Island. I think quietly, I think Stephen Curry has the same passion to play golf that he has to play basketball. And quietly, I think he's setting himself up to play on a professional golf tour. It might sound outrageous, but I don't think it is. I think that's where he is. I don't think that he wants to do the slow dive into oblivion like Kobe Bryant did. I don't think he wants that. He doesn't need to. He's won 4 championships. To win 5 would be incredible, but he knows at some point it's going to end. I think having a father who played in the NBA, I think that they're already having these conversations now about what the end of his career looks like.
We welcome in Cy Satsis, who's been locked on Warriors since the Warriors lost to the Kings and the Beam.
I'm more shocked. I mean, Damon Bruce up on a 1040 on a Wednesday night. Look at you. What's going on, man?
Dude, the kids went to bed. Miracles happen, Cy.
Absolutely.
Damon's how old's the little guy? The little guy?
The little guy is 2.5.
The 2.5-year-old blew chunks in the living room the other day.
I can actually, if I could pick up my camera, I could show you. We're a carpet down. That carpet was unsalvageable. There was a funk to our living room that got worse by the day, not better. It didn't dissipate, so we had to roll it up. New carpet is coming in delivery in the next day or two.
See, that's why they make kids cute, because otherwise you just throw them out. You'd be like, I blew chunks. This kid's a nightmare.
It's their greatest self-defense.
So you walked into a room where we're discussing Steph Curry with or without Steph Curry with the Warriors at the end, and it's only because we're here and it's that dramatic, and we know Warrior fans want Steph to be here. Joe Lacob wants Steph to be here. Does it make sense? Does Steph want to be here? Does it? I
hope. I heard was it Carl that was talking about not wanting a repeat of the Kobe Bryant years? Like Joe Lacob has emphasized that in past years.
Frank.
He doesn't want the Warriors to turn into that. That's the whole premise of the two timeline thing was based on trying to avoid the Warriors turning into an irrelevant shit team in the twilight of Steph's career, and that's the whole reason for my irritation towards Steve Kerr starting last season, because Bob Myers, that was his agenda, was to extend this thing, was to follow the Spurs formula of extending a dynasty to a second era. And it was largely successful until he blew the relationship with Kawhi. For old school Bay Area sports fans who witnessed the 49ers firsthand in their dynasty, they showed you could extend it. It's all about not being sentimental and nostalgic about your players who are aging. You got to cut those ties when you start seeing the regression. But Steve Kerr didn't want that. He won't let that. I mean, how many times did they say all season that Klay, Wiggins, they're still a version of themselves from the 22 championship? They were not. It's like Klay and Wiggins, their struggles tonight, to me, epitomize this season as a whole, because everyone thought those two, or a lot of people at least thought those two would step up, and they didn't. They regressed tremendously, and the Warriors couldn't survive that. Not at least with Klay getting 31 minutes tonight, despite laying a fat donut.
Speaking of cutting bait and moving on, Anthony Slater on Twitter about 38 minutes ago said, from Steve Kerr's post-game press conference, "We need Klay back. He still has good years left. We desperately want him back."
I mean, I wouldn't mind him back, but he has to take a lesser role. I mean, he can't be. This can't happen anymore.
At what dollar figure though? You don't want him back. Do you want him back at 24 million?
If it's like 1 or 2 years, I wouldn't hate it. Because the bottom line is, the Warriors are going to be in a tough situation in terms of being under the cap. It's almost impossible. So whether or not you re-sign Klay, that's not going to affect you signing other free agents, right? So why not bring him back for, if it's 2 years, 48 or whatever? It's Joe's money, not ours. I could care less what a billionaire does with their cash. I don't think it hurts the Warriors as long as you don't continue giving him this role. He can't be this guy. Like, he can't be a 32-minute play. Why? What was the excuse for that? Do any of you guys have an answer for that? Like, the excuse?
I just thought it was so ironic that in a year where Kerr, never played Moses Moody, there he was in the final game trying to play playing Moses Moody, and to me it was like Moody, Kuminga. The bright spots tonight were Moody, Kuminga, Podziemski. Would have been Trace Jackson Davis if he had gotten more run. I knew Kerr was gonna get nervous and bench him. And
you said that on the phone today, Larry. We talked on the phone, and you called that.
I said that he's going to get nervous after he plays bad for like a minute. He's going to yank him, and he's going to sit. And sure enough, he did. And I think that retards his growth. I don't know what the solution is, because you can like say, well, this guy should be back. Yeah, that guy should be back. And then you look around and it's status quo, and you're winning 32 games, and the thing's totally got. Klay Thompson's not getting better. He's going to be worse. Mm-hmm. So whatever you're going to pay him, based on that, you can't pay him what he did based on this year. You got to pay him based on what you think he's going to do.
What do you think
in the next couple years?
30-year-old Klay Thompson is going to look like?
Right.
So I saw 34-year-old Klay. What's 36-year-old Klay? And like you said, Cyrus, the fact that Steve Kerr is saying, oh, yeah, I need this guy back. Steve Kerr needs a rude awakening, and he needs to be broken of the habit. Like, he needs some Klay Thompson methadone. He needs to drop this addiction. It's time to walk away. You cannot go 0 for Sacramento in an elimination game and tell me about a bright future. And I'm just sorry. I hate to be that. I got all the room for Steph Curry to die on the court at Chase Center. I'm cool with it.
Same.
Yeah, you gotta actually next year you gotta have, if Klay's back, him and Moody their roles need reversed.
And that won't happen. Kerr will not let that happen. Old habits die hard with Steve, and Steve needs to be stripped of the Klay Thompson option for this team to evolve. I really believe that. Unless Klay is absolutely willing to come back for $12 million and be a sixth man, and that's it. And like he's not. Exactly. He's not. He won't.
Well, I wouldn't offer him more than 15 to 18. And if he doesn't take it, I'd say, you know what?
Do you Eric Armstead him side? Do you offer him just such a low deal that you basically just make him leave?
It's a clean cut. I get, yeah, maybe. This is going to be one hell of an offseason. I mean, this to me is the most interesting offseason ever for the Warriors. I mean, it's up there, top 3, top 5. Klay Thompson reminds me of Ray Allen with the Heat. Is that a fair comparison? I mean, that's how I see him now. So,
is there any world in which the Warriors try to land a superstar from a trade in the offseason? To pair up with Steph.
The biggest move they have that they can make, and I don't know if it's much of a move, but Chris Paul has that team option, which I think the Warriors are almost definitely going to exercise, and then you trade him. But I don't know what you can get back.
You think the Warriors going to exercise that option? Pick it up?
It's a non-refundable or non-guaranteed contract, right?
It is, yeah, but I think they're going to make it guaranteed, and then I think they're going to do that. But I think they're going to do that not to keep him. I think they're going to do that so they don't lose him for nothing. My guess is you sign him. He's an expiring deal. Maybe there's a team out there. Now, I immediately have already had 2 different people reach out to me, sources, people inside that I call insiders, who are already bringing up the fact that they wouldn't be surprised if Draymond Green is shipped. And
to the Lakers or where
exactly? Because there's
I'm thinking Draymond to the Lakers and some big deal to the Clippers for Paul George.
Oh, I would love that, man.
You would max Paul George out. You would max him out.
If you could swing Wiggins for Paul George in a heartbeat, I mean, in a heartbeat.
Well, Paul George makes $45 million. He's due to make 46 in a player option. If he opted in. And you parlayed, Wiggins and Paul.
That's about 54, right? 50,
yeah, maybe
Wiggins is about 24, I think.
Maybe you could get Paul George and Norman Powell or something like that. I don't know. But, I mean, the money is so big that the options are very, very finite and very limited. And that's what makes this thing so – that's why I was saying – maybe you trade Draymond to the Lakers for 3 or 4 pieces. Maybe you move Paul to, some team for 3 or 4 pieces as an expiring. You bring in 6, 7 new players, all kind of younger players, and just see if you can kind of shuffle the deck a couple times.
I'd like Reeves back. If you traded Draymond to the Lakers, I think Reeves could help the Warriors.
Oh, hell yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And the crazy thing about Andrew Wiggins is that a lot of people say this, and I believe it. I've never heard otherwise, that he has virtually no trade value, right? Like no other team wants him. It's like, okay, he has no trade value. So why are the Warriors playing him? Why is he why is he so high in the pecking order if no other team has any interest in him whatsoever? Like if they can't move him, Wiggins has to be that guy that just makes a ton of money at the end of the bench. That happens. Other teams do that with players sometimes. To me, like you got to start playing Moody. You got to start playing, like developing and committing to these young guys. But in terms of, here's their salary cap situation right now. Bobby Marks, the ESPN cap expert, and he's normally good with this stuff. I trust him more than most. According to him, the Warriors right now, this is without Klay Thompson. This is without Chris Paul and his $30 million non-guaranteed contract. They're right now committed to $174 million. The tax threshold is 171. So they're already over the cap. And that's before Klay. That's before Chris Paul. That's before Gary Payton II opts in because he has a player option, I think, for like what, 8, 9, 10 million. He's almost definitely going to exercise that, because I don't think he's going to, unless you guys think he'll get even a bigger deal, then he might opt out. But that's where they're at, and it's not good. Yeah, it's not good. So outside of the Chris Paul thing, I don't know what they do, honestly, man. They do have a mid-level exception, which is huge. They didn't have that this last year. So you can get somebody with some value. But I think the biggest issue, man, and this is just me, but you got to get bigger. The game has changed. Like the year they won the championship, and I feel like a broken record saying this, but those conference finals were 4 teams, none of whom had an elite center. Like that was an anomaly of a season where the Warriors got away with Andrew Wiggins playing power forward. That's not working anymore. That is an impossibility in today's NBA. So you can get size for cheap. There's a lot of options there, but you need a coach who's going to embrace that. And that's where I wonder if the ultimate problem is Kerr, and they may never get good until he moves on. That might be where we're at. I don't know.
You make a great point, and I totally agree with you. I'm watching Sacramento play the Warriors, and even you know what? The only time that Alex Len plays is in the playoffs against the Warriors. This guy's a pretty damn good player.
He's good at Maryland.
He's a good player. Why does he play? Because he's big and he's tall and he's athletic. So you're absolutely right. The Warriors actually can improve from within. If they commit to Kuminga and say, you know what? Let's go on a retreat, Jonathan. Let me tell you 119 times how I love you and how I'm going to build you up and bring you back and guarantee that you're going to play 35 minutes a game next year and stop all of this yo-yo crap. Because this is a guy who can ascend. I thought of Jonathan Kuminga when I was watching Keegan Murray. Keegan Murray looked like a superstar tonight. Why?
Oh, great.
Because they don't F with him. They understand that he is a fixture on their team, and they're building his confidence. The Warriors don't do that with Jonathan Kuminga. And I'm not saying Kuminga is perfect, because he's not. He's immature. He does some stuff. But you as a coach have to build up your players.
Yes.
So
Curry to the Kings for Fox and the Beam.
I would look. I'm
that
not.
Beam's got tremendous value.
I'm not here to argue at all against getting bigger. I watch enough basketball to understand you can't coach size. But what does size get the Warriors more than anything else?
Better defense.
I think better defense, longer, harder to shoot over is absolutely a reason to get bigger, especially on the perimeter. I think they need perimeter length more than they even need another big man. I think the big man that you need is on the team, and he needs more time. Trace Jackson Davis is going to be that guy. I don't need big guys. I need dogs.
Mm-hmm.
That's the problem with Andrew Wiggins. Andrew Wiggins is the most dogless basketball player I've ever seen, and that's why he can't be on the team. Gary Payton, that fucking guy is always hurt. But you know what? Keep him around. I hope you exercise it because he's got a dog in him. Gary Payton's a dog on the court.
That's true.
I don't mind him. Moses Moody, he's got dog in him, and I'll go through any growing pains and get Moody 40 fucking minutes a night because he has just sat the first 2 years of his career just watching. He's ready to go 40 minutes a night. Play him 40 minutes a night. Thank Klay Thompson for the memories. Tell him he gets a statue. He's not coming back. That way Steve Kerr doesn't have that option because guess who's not going anywhere? Steve Kerr. So you got to take something away from him that he falls back on.
Yeah.
And you talk about all the money to move right there. You can't pay Klay Thompson when you're already several million into the first tier of the threshold. So it's just, that's it. That's how I think this needs to play out. More Trace, more dogs. And this is the thing, Brandon Pajemski. There's a guy, I wish he were 3 inches taller. If he were, he would have been a top 10 pick because he's a dog. Pajemski's a dog. I want to see more minutes for him. So,
I'm with you. And Damon, how did you feel about Trace Jackson Davis getting pulled 5 minutes into this game and you just don't see him again until the fourth quarter when they're losing by 19?
That bothered me because Trace played himself off the court. He shouldn't have played himself out of the game. He did get eaten alive in a quick King start and he needed to do something. Kerr needed to do something. Let's see what Looney's got. But then when you realize Looney isn't just this massive step forward as the replacement for Klay Thompson and going small all night long against Sabonis, it's amazing the Warriors weren't in foul trouble tonight. I'll give them that much. But
the Warriors missed an opportunity tonight with Trace Jackson Davis. This game was the most important game for him to get minutes in, and for Kerr to banish him to the bench after, an early run just did him a disservice. And also, to me, it's not putting your best foot forward. He was one of their best players. He was one of the guys that gave them a chance. And Kerr, of course, fell back on his crutch of, let's go with Loon. And,
I think he went with Looney because of his success last year in the Kings series. Right. And he was trying to duplicate that. And
I know, but it was a one, here's the thing too. I would have loved the Warriors against the Kings in a series. If this had been a first-round series, I would have loved the Warriors to win this series because they would have made adjustments and they would have grinded it out. But after I watched Curry roll that ankle against New Orleans and as fatigued as he's looked, and we all knew that Klay Thompson, once that first Klay Thompson shot did not go down, I'm like, oh, my God, here we go. He's going to start hunting. He's going to start hunting shots, and he's going to start pressing. And sure enough, he did. And it's just, they need to shake it up. They just need to shake it up. To me, if I could do anything, if I was Joe, I'd be like, Joe, go hire Sam Presti. Go give Sam Presti a boatload of cash, because Sam Presti understands that the building begins with the accumulation of assets, and then you go from assets to players, and then you're the number one seed in the West.
Presti's doing what now?
With still a ton of number one.
He's with OKC, but I'm just saying
no. I'm saying, what is the role he's being hired for?
GM.
I would say he is
just pretty much crushed the draft with his first two picks.
Okay. No question. But I mean, and maybe Dunleavy's the next great GM. I don't know. But far as what do the Warriors really need? They need to kind of replicate what OKC has done. I mean, accumulate a ton of assets and then turn them into players.
More assets than anything. That's the thing. Presti literally has built the thing that he's about to unleash, right? The monster is here. Why would he walk away now?
Well, because he lives in OKC. I always feel like that's the one thing you could. Do you really want to live in Oklahoma? I always wonder that. I'm with you, Larry. I think you can entice him, but at the same time, Damon, you're right too, because this problem is not because of Dunleavy Jr. It's a head coaching thing. This roster is built based on what Steve Kerr wants. I don't think any GM is aiming to build the smallest roster in the NBA. That's not a formula for success. He's building this roster to make Steve Kerr happy and to give him the players he wants. But again, what Steve Kerr wants is not translating to success in the modern game. Interesting to note too, this was the most minutes Steph played this year since 2017.
Right.
Which makes no damn sense. Like, why are you running him into the ground like that? There's a lot of stuff going on here that
if the Warriors put Steph Curry on the market, who would come knocking?
Oh, we're doing that, huh?
I mean,
any team ready to win a title.
What would they be offering? I mean,
definitely Clippers would come. The Clippers would do headstands.
If we're being serious about this, I really think you would try to get Brandon Miller from Charlotte. Maybe like a Brandon Miller, LaMelo Ball type deal to match, so the dollars match as well. I can't believe we're talking about this, but I mean, if you're going to do that, I think that's where you go. I think Charlotte would agree to that, man, just to get their hometown boy, even for a couple of years.
Is there a team that is suffering at the gate so bad that they'd be willing to part with multiple lottery picks and
how about
future picks?
New Orleans for Zion and change. I'm thinking of a team that's got to start a move.
Yeah.
It's not gonna, again, let's come back to the reality that we sound like we're on peyote right now, but we're doing a thought experiment, and that's good too. But
I've never been on peyote. Is it expensive? Is it hard to get?
That's one of the few drugs I've ever done myself. I've heard you had to puke, right? You puke when you first take it, and then
the answer to both your questions is no and no.
Do you have a peyote jar behind you at all?
No, but
No,
I do have a bag of mushrooms that you would be impressed if you saw because I'm going to see Fish at the Sphere over the weekend.
Damon started the stream in his studio and finished the stream on his roof. Why? The power of mushrooms. But I mean, to me, it would be at least interesting to hear what is out there, and then at least you could decide for yourself. Because how much value is there going to be in Steph Curry on a 32-win team? Really? I mean, what's that worth? I asked the question before you jumped in here. Joe Lacob is a self-made billionaire, but at his core, is he more about greenbacks or Larry O'Brien's? Is he more about trying to get more people to go through the turnstiles at his opulent arena, or is he more about trying to turn the page? Because let's be honest, Steph Curry will bring you more assets because he is a turnstile mover. So he's a franchise turner. I guarantee you the Charlotte Hornets, in a state where college basketball is absolutely king, Steph Curry would put butts in the seats. You could make an argument that he's worth LaMelo, Brandon whatever, and 4 lottery picks. You know what I mean? I mean,
yeah.
And should the Warriors think about that? Or is Joe about greenbacks and putting people through the turnstiles? Because Steph's going to bring them through the turnstiles, but we all sitting here know there are no more titles going to be attached to Steph Curry. So do you want to set yourself up? Do you accelerate your rebuild by sacrificing some greenbacks for some draft picks and go down that road? Or do you just say, hell no, I want people to come to my arena and turn this, because if you don't move Steph, you probably got a 6, 7, 8 year rebuild and it may never happen. If you do move Steph, you probably accelerate that rebuild. That's really the question. That's the core question. And I don't know the answer. I think he's more about greenbacks than he is about championships.
I think Warriors fans should be eternally grateful that Joe Lacob is the owner. I mean, when you look at the 30 owners in the NBA, 25 of them suck. I mean, they're all about, like you said, the greenbacks. They're, they prefer, going the nepotism route, even though Joe sometimes does that as well. But look, Joe is the closest thing we're ever going to get to another Eddie DeBartolo. And I think if you take outside of the whole mafia side of it, and I'm being facetious saying that, but he is about the greenbacks, but so is Eddie D. Right? I mean, Eddie D, there's a huge reason why he moved the 49ers headquarters to Santa Clara. He saw the dollar signs there. But he also was about winning. And I think what Joe doesn't want is irrelevancy. I think that's his goal. And again, I'm thankful, man. I mean, I've never hidden the fact that I love the Warriors. I try to separate the objectivity from covering them, but I am grateful, man, to no end that Joe Lacob's the owner. And that is where I have hope. And that's where the faith comes from, because Joe literally was broaching the subject of trading for LeBron James, which kind of fits both boats, right? I mean, you're making more money in that process and you're also winning. So my point is, I'm happy Joe's the owner, and I don't think he's going to settle for I always think back to the San Francisco Giants in the late 2000s when Barry Bonds was the only thing selling tickets. He was chasing that home run record. That Giants team was garbage, but the ownership could care less because Bonds was selling tickets. And that drove me insane, man. Like, that's what I never want for my team is just milking one player and not caring about wins and losses. I don't think Joe Lacob's like that. And that's my opinion.
How about this scenario? The Warriors or the Lakers get bounced in 4 or 5 against Denver.
Yeah, which they will.
LeBron is a free agent. Roughly, he can opt out. Warriors with their second pick, which will be early, draft Bronny.
Oh, he wasn't even good enough to play at SC.
But the whole idea is to bring LeBron.
Exactly.
You're not picking LeBron or Bronny to play. You're picking Bronny to get LeBron to come team up with Steph, and maybe it's a sign and trade deal with Wiggins and Draymond. I don't know.
I mean, now you're full. Now if you don't win a title, you're really driving your team off the cliff.
Right.
Yeah,
Now
you're entertaining.
As old as possible.
You're
but here's
old.
the thing. LeBron is having the single greatest game against Father Time any basketball player's ever played.
Oh, yeah.
Good
LeBron's
Lord.
playing like a top 10 player right now.
He's still
He's
a force to
Brady.
be
He's
featured.
Brady.
Top 10 player.
Yeah.
I mean, again, I'm listening to you gentlemen, and my whole thing is make a decision. Because I think from an emotional standpoint, fans will grieve. They'll go through this process of seeing players that they love not there anymore. But spring, I'm getting my analogy screwed up here, but basically the summer is coming. All right. They can identify.
Winter is coming. I think you're looking for winter is coming.
No.
Oh, sorry.
Sunshine.
Oh, okay.
Listen,
I'm following you, Damon. I got you.
Sorry, it's Game of Thrones. Sorry.
Yeah, no. Listen, I love Games of Thrones. My point is this: if the Warriors go along the path that they're going on, it's going to look very similar to the Kobe Bryant experience in Los Angeles. That's what it's going to look like. Now, we're throwing out scenarios now that might seem absurd on its face, but in reality, they're conversations. Joe Montana did not finish his career with the San Francisco 49ers.
Mm-hmm.
If you are going to move Stephen Curry, that's a conversation that's going to be had with Stephen Curry and Joe Lacob jointly, I think, personally. You don't want to screw that thing up. But guess what? If you ask Stephen if he wants to go to Charlotte and you can get Ball back, that helps both organizations. Beyond that, you have to reconstruct how you win. Steve Kerr, for whatever reason, does not want to accept the NBA is changing before his eyes. The big man actually is coming back into the NBA.
Correct.
This perimeter-oriented, passing, fastball type of basketball is eroding. If you go back to the Chicago Bulls, they had Bill Winnington. They had Luke Longley. Get some of those guys who can.
Cartwright. Yeah.
Yes. So like if you want to maintain the same style, that's okay. But you have to modify what you're doing. Have a 7'2" guy to come off the bench for Trey Jackson-Davis. Looney's basically done. Come on, y'all. I mean, Looney's done.
Yeah.
I mean, he really is. And like you guys said, you can get quality bigs for cheap because their roles are very narrow in the game of basketball. So you have to reconstruct how you're going to coach this team moving forward. You got to have a big guy. Play your young guys. So it's not that hard. You just need to make a decision philosophically as to how this organization is going to move forward.
I'm eager to see if there's an owner out there that really, sees, sees an opportunity to make a lot of money, and could Joe take advantage? I mean, would Cuban take Curry for Luka?
No, he wouldn't. He went to Indiana. He's not that stupid.
Well, but I mean, just somebody who looks at Curry as somebody who's going to put butts in the seats and save the franchise. I mean, Charlotte. Charlotte, comes to mind. Just because pro basketball. I mean, Steph Curry would put pro basketball on the map in a big way in Charlotte.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think anything like that's even going to be on the table if Kerr is talking about they want Klay back desperately. They're not going to be trading Curry and bringing Klay back.
To me, the scariest conversation of the year was when it was clear that Joe wanted LeBron.
Crazy.
I was like, okay, well, really? Is that what we're about?
Let me tell you, had they made that trade midway through the year and Andrew Wiggins had been involved in it, the Warriors are at least a 5 seed.
Fair.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Is it a long-term solution? Absolutely not. But solving today's problem, that would have solved today's problem better than just stick with it and hope.
No question.
Yeah. And let's be honest, even if the Warriors found a deal out there that would give them young assets, people wouldn't support wouldn't support those young assets anywhere close to the way they would support a team that has Steph Curry as the face of the franchise. it just kind of it makes you wonder deep down, what do you think Steph wants?
Yeah.
I think he wants
great
to be a
question.
career Golden State Warrior.
You think so?
I
Or
think
do we
Steph-
want that?
No, I think Steph really realizes that he's done enough winning and has been the magnet of enough winning. He's not the refrigerator that sticks to the magnet of winning. He's the fridge. And I think he knows that being a career Golden State Warrior probably now means more to his legacy and to the history of the game than showing up as the guy in Charlotte who didn't win there either at the very end. You know, he's not winning. And if Steph Curry's going to do anything in terms of I'm putting on another uniform, he's putting on another uniform to win another ring. So it ain't going to be Charlotte. Sorry. It's not like, oh, he's back home with his mom and dad again. They divorced. You know, that's childhood shit. That's over. Steph doesn't want to be a Charlotte Hornet. Come on.
Well, it is his hometown, though, you know, and he may want to play in front of his friends and
San
family.
Francisco in the Bay Area for the rest of his life. This is Steph hometown now. This is where he lives. You know, I was from upstate New York, but then I came to San Francisco. I had a career. I still have one. This is my town. This is my city. It's where I met my wife. It's where my kids are born. I'm a San Franciscan now. I don't care where my fucking hometown was when I was 11.
Well, first of all, you're not a San Franciscan. You're not a San Franciscan.
I am
You're a guy who lives behind Reardon High School, but you're not a San Franciscan.
That makes me more of a San Franciscan than any douchebag in the marina who ever chased $1 billion. Thank you very much.
You're a San Franciscan if you're born and raised there. All right.
Look at it this way. So I'm the father of 2 San Franciscans.
Right.
That's fair. That's accurate.
Fair. That's fair.
There you
Your
go.
Kids, Ozzy,
And there's
he's a
levels
San
to this,
Franciscan.
right? There's levels to
And
this.
my
Like, I
wife
wouldn't call you
is a
transplant,
native San
David.
Franciscan. We got the DNA. You know,
Right. But I'm just saying, my point is,
where do you
there's
live?
not a
by the way?
lot
Do you live in
here.
Walnut
There's not a
Creek?
lot here for
Are
Steph.
you in Walnut Creek right now? Is that where I hear you from? Walnut. Is that where you are?
I'm a native San Franciscan,
Do you have a
and I'm a
fucking
and I'm a
banjo where you live?
multi-generational native San Franciscan. So there you go. But I'm just because he's you know lives now in Palo Alto and he's established here in the Bay doesn't mean. I mean, Steph's got a massive house in L.A. Steph's got a bigger house in Malibu than he has in Palo Alto. So I mean, I don't think Steph would blink twice if you know if the Warriors decided they wanted to move him to LA. I mean, he's got a home there. I could see him being very happy in New York if he was the final piece. I mean, maybe there's other fish out there for him to fry. I mean, the Knicks haven't been relevant since Frank.
73.
73, they won the title. They went, you know, on the OJ, 94, they were in the finals against the Rockets. But I mean, what would it be? What would it mean? Or how much would his star grow if he somehow could be the final piece that carries the Knicks to a finals?
Steph Curry doesn't need the New York Knicks. Steph Curry's a bigger star in this league than the New York Knicks. Steph Curry on the Golden State Warriors is more valuable than the New York Knicks. The one claim to fame New York ever had in a town that loves stock prices is we're the most valuable fucking franchise, even though we're the biggest galactic losers over the last 20 years the league has
They
to
love
offer.
their basketball, and you know they call it the Mecca for a reason. And he would be a bigger star than he is now if he could somehow lead them to a title. I'm just saying, what do the Warriors? I know what Steph has to offer the Warriors. He's going to pack the house. Joe's going to have an arena that's, you know, got people in it. There's going to be relevancy. We're all going to enjoy it selfishly. But what is he getting out of it? You know, what's he getting out of it? I'm just saying, we all assume he wants to be here, but do we know that he wants to be here? Has he ever really said, you know what, this is where I want to be to the end?
He has said it, Larry.
Yes,
yeah,
absolutely.
But
We'll
who knows?
see.
But you're right. Opinions do change. I mean, who knows since he said that if he still feels that way? But he has said it. I can confirm that.
I just don't know if they can. I mean, we're all sitting here looking at this thing going, yeah, but is there a way to build this thing around him to get even in a competitive situation?
The truth is, I think that any trade involving Steph Curry would strip the team that he was being traded to of so many assets that Steph would not be in a better situation. He'd just be in a different one.
Yeah.
And different situation, I don't think does more to Steph Curry's legacy. I'm talking about the way we talk about him 10 years after he's dead legacy. Then he was a career Golden State Warrior. He played every game of his career in a Warriors uniform, just like he never transferred from Davidson. And that's who he is. That's who he was. Steph Curry was loyal to a fault. And I think that's who he is. And by the way, he's $1 billion global brand right here. He doesn't need New York, Madison Avenue, Madison Square Garden, or Jimmy fucking Dolan in charge of it, and within a country mile of his career.
But he's an incredible competitor. And is it going to just chew at him to be irrelevant in, and be let's be honest. He's been the face of the winning, but he's the face of the franchise. So if the team's losing, he's going to be the face of the losing too. So there's a lot of pain that goes along with that. There's a lot of unhappiness and frustration. I would be incredibly frustrated if I had won as much as he has and now was faced with losing as much as he's probably going to. I don't know. It's a weird situation. And then the other thing is, the relationships. Like, what's going to happen? Steph and Klay and Draymond have great relationships.
Mm-hmm.
If the Warriors say goodbye to Klay, which a lot of people would advocate for, that's going to impact their relationship, because Klay's going to know that Steph signed off on his departure. Right. And the same with Draymond to some degree. And you just kind of wonder about how this is all going to work out.
I think the answer is, like, if they want to move off of Klay, if they do, like you said, they give him the Eric Armstead treatment. That's just the best way.
If Steph and Klay are really as tight as they are, isn't that going to piss Steph off if the Warriors offered Klay Thompson a way, way, way below market deal only to kind of drive him away?
Yes.
You don't think that's going to get back to Steph? You don't think that's going to impact how he feels about Joe and the franchise? I don't know. It's an incredible time to be locked on Warriors, I guess. You're gonna have some amazing conversations, I would imagine.
Yeah.
Going forward, because all these things there's a dynamic there. If we were all, 5 guys on a championship team and, Cy was Steph, and all of a sudden they got rid of 3 of us and we all knew that Cy signed off on it, that would change our relationship, would it not?
Possibly.
So,
well, how would you feel about Miles Bridges? Because I'm perusing right now all the free agents for next year. The Warriors could offer a mid-level exception. They couldn't offer that this past season. So for the upcoming offseason, they could offer that, and that could be somewhere $5-10 million. I don't know which one they're going to qualify for yet. I think there's 3 different brackets of the mid-level, depending on how far over the cap you are, where you're at. But there's some talent out there that's going to be available. And what, like
Miles Bridges with the domestic violence, that guy?
Yes, because you heard what Draymond Green said.
I think that's a non-starter in the Bay Area.
Yeah.
Even really with what Draymond said, because Draymond publicly endorsed this guy. Do you remember that a couple months ago when
Michigan State guy? Yeah,
yeah, he because they got into some sort of tussle, I think, with the Hornets, right? And Draymond took umbrage with one player, but then he said Miles is my guy, and it raised a lot of eyebrows. But it also made me wonder, he would be a difference maker. That is the type of player that I think the Warriors could use. He would have made a difference in this game tonight. But is that domestic violence thing? Is that too much? Is that a non-starter? I don't know.
It's not a good look.
I don't know. What's that, Frank?
I said it's not a good look. And I also think that Miles Bridges, a lot of these players have a totally different view of their worth versus everybody else. This guy thinks that he's probably $100 million player.
That's true.
That wants a lot of shots. He doesn't impact winning. Not at all. He came back this year in Charlotte. They didn't win any more games. They probably regressed. So, I'm thinking of the San Antonio Spurs right now. Back in the day, I want to see how good Mike Dunleavy Jr. is. because the Warriors historically have not developed players. Who's a 7'2" European guy that we don't know about who can come in here next year and actually contribute and give some rim protection?
Yeah.
Who's the guard that's on Milwaukee right now? AJ Green from Western Wisconsin or somewhere. The guy can shoot lights out. You know what I'm talking about? Green, AJ Green. This dude's like from Western Wisconsin. We need to do a better job developing players because really, fellas, during the short term, the Warriors are not that far off. I'm going to tell you, even watching this game tonight, the Warriors got killed on the offensive boards.
Killed. You're right.
Killed.
Murdered. Yeah.
Draymond Green can no longer do it by himself. They found the jewel in Trace Jackson Davis. Go get another Trace Jackson Davis, the 57 pick, and have a guy come in here who is physical, who can rebound and finish around the rim. You know, Coach Klay Thompson.
But you're right. I mean, for example, like the Kings had a player tonight, Keon Ellis, who wasn't even drafted.
Yes.
And you're right. Mike Dunleavy Jr., there are a lot of gems out there that are undiscovered. And I'm with you. A good GM finds those. The Miami Heat, I feel like, are a perfect example of that. Every year they end up having 3-4 guys you've never heard of in your life who end up just being huge contributors for a long playoff run. So I'm with you. I think that's – but a part of that as well is whether or not Mike Dunleavy Jr. can take control of these decisions and basically tell Steve Kerr, you're going to play who I give you, right? And that dichotomy is fascinating in and of itself.
Does Lester Quinones take Chris Paul's place as the third guard?
And Pajemski. But yeah, I think so. I hope so. I think he's ready. I like the guy.
Here's the thing. Will Mike Dunleavy Jr. be given the choice to make a trade that he thinks would better the team? He has had 2 bites at the drafting apple. He took 2 really big, good bites. I mean, you can't go better than you found 2 NBA players in your first 2 draft picks.
Right.
So, that's good because the Warriors went many years not finding NBA players with their draft picks. And then unfortunately, the guys like Kuminga and Moody got stuck behind Steve Kerr's philosophy, which, by the way, while they were stuck behind Steve Kerr's philosophy, they won a title against the Boston Celtics. So you can't motherfuck Steve too hard for that moment in time because they won a championship that they probably didn't have much business winning. Can the Warriors execute a big trade to change their entire how they play dramatically? I don't know if that's out there. I just need some. Like, again, I need dogs. I need guys who want it a little bit harder. They did get killed on the offensive glass tonight. I don't know how they did it, but they led the NBA in rebounding this year.
Yeah.
I got a name I want to throw you guys. But first of all, let me mention that Dan and Cyrus agreeing, coming to common ground on Lester Quinones is brought to you by Sharp Corners Sports Cards and Collectibles, 205 Cypress Avenue in Pacific Grove. Call Anthony Catania. He's at 831-521-5264. When Dan and Cy agree, that's a sponsored segment. Kevin Durant.
Yes.
What about a reuniting with Kevin Durant? And I only reason I say that is, I gotta think that even though I've brought up the idea of moving Steph, that really what Golden State's when the dust clears and they do their evaluation, they're going to be thinking, can we pair another big star, big bodied star next to Steph Curry and try to make a run? I think that's going to be their thinking. Durant makes 47.6 this year. He makes 51.1 next year. You theoretically could take picks, Wiggins, Paul, and stack these contracts and potentially at least come up with maybe Kuminga and come up with a passable deal for Durant.
Chris Durant, Phoenix. Oh boy,
is Durant and Curry reuniting an option, or you think a possible title contention model, or is that ship sailed?
Do you think Durant's taking any deal that has him back on Draymond Green's team?
I mean, I think Green could be moved this offseason.
How about this? If you want a decent shot with Steph Curry and what you got left, Kevin Durant's a guy I'd take that shot with, because he's,
But would you give up Kuminga in the deal?
Again,
I wouldn't.
So what is the goal now?
I wouldn't either. 21 years old or whatever he is.
Are you asking
22?
what's best for the Warriors next year or in the next 5 years? Because the answer is Kevin Durant definitively next year. 5 years, it's probably Jonathan Kuminga. So how do you want to play this? Do you want to ride all options? Here's the thing. You could get to the point where you're trying so hard to win a title, one last title with Steph Curry, that you definitely suck the next 10 years after that. I don't think the Warriors are quite there yet. How deep down the trying to win one more Steph rabbit hole do you want to go? Or do you want to be a good team that sees one of the single greatest players in NBA history finish his career in your uniform? You've won 4 championships. How much greedier and hungrier for a championship do you all really need to be? And like Kevin Durant would give you a real option, a real something special. But then Kevin Durant and Steph Curry, when they both are donezo, woof, you're in trouble after that.
Would he though? Like if Durant, if you make that trade, let's say Phoenix says, yeah, Kuminga and we'll take Wiggins off their hands too, so you don't have that contract anymore for Kevin Durant. Do you think the Warriors are suddenly contenders? Like I don't think they are, even with that deal. Like, do you think so?
They might not be, Cyrus. You're right. They might not be.
That's why I don't make that trade. That's the main reason.
You have 2 players rolling for about 60 a night. You know what I mean? Like you can pencil 2 guys in for 50 on any given night, and then you find the other points and everywhere else. But we saw what Kevin Durant meant to this franchise in the moment that he was here. And with all due respect to Steph Curry, when he was on the court with Steph Curry, Kevin Durant got final shots. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Let me say this, guys. Like I've been thinking a lot about football and basketball. All right. Football, we've seen multiple examples of how teams have reloaded and skyrocketed back to the top again. We've never seen that in the NBA. It's never happened. The Portland Trailblazers made the playoffs for 17 straight years. I think they're the only team that's ever done that. By and large, when you have tremendous success in the NBA, there is a drop-off. And based on your organization, that depends. I mean, how fast you get back to respectability depends upon how astute your front office is. So we're talking about scenarios with the Golden State Warriors that has never happened.
Mm-hmm.
The Lakers have gone down. The Bulls have gone down. Everybody's gone down. And we're
come up since it was over. I mean, since the Jordan era ended, they're still trying to figure it out. You can go 20 years in between eras for sure.
So well, the Bulls are an awful example to bring. Reinsdorf is one of the worst owners.
Yeah, he is.
That team hasn't made a trade. Literally, like they haven't traded a player in 3 years.
I know that.
That's crazy. Like they're the like it's weird that they just are content with mediocrity, but everybody goes down. I mean, even the blockbuster getting Anthony Davis to the Lakers, and all the picks went to New Orleans. They had to go to a process and watch these young players develop. My whole thing with the Golden State Warriors is make a decision. The Warriors are not going to suck with Stephen Curry, Draymond Green, Klay Thompson, Jonathan Kuminga, and whatever auxiliary parts they have. Are they going to challenge for a championship? Probably not. But they're not going to suck, right? If you want them to tear the house down, they got some great pieces that they can send out into the marketplace and gain assets. But they're not going to be as good. Make a decision. That's the only I'm talking about.
My biggest fear is that they have some nice assets right now that are young, and they're going to part with those assets to try to keep this window pried open.
I hope not, dude.
And if I see a parade of Podziemski, Tracy Jackson Davis, Kuminga out the door, trying to dial it back. Clay's back and Draymond's back and everybody's back.
The Kevin Durant question. No one else did. So that's by just asking the question, all those guys are in play, right?
Well, that's the thing. It's like I would rather not move those guys. I'd rather find a team.
Kevin Durant for Kevon Looney.
Well, no, what I'm saying is like, I'm okay. I'm okay with it's hard to make successful picks. You can pick all day, every day. The Warriors did it for 20 years and get terrible players in the draft. They've now hit on a few players. I'd rather trade contracts and picks for a Durant than trade the establishing core. To me, it's like if you're gonna take the young core and usher them out the door, I really don't want to see that. I don't know how if we could hold a vote of Warrior fans, would Warrior fans advocate losing and going forward with what they've got or moving off of their young core? And I don't know if I want to. I would vote I'd rather lose than move off of the young core. I'd rather see the young core go forward than start trading those guys out the door.
And look, this might be an unpopular opinion, but I do believe this. I think the young core is good enough where if you give them a run and you put your faith in them, they're gonna be improved next year.
Absolutely.
Kuminga's going to be a better player. Pajemski's going to be a better player. Trace Jackson Davis is going to be a better player. Moody's going to be a better player. Those four alone, and never mind Guy Santos is going to be better. Lester Quinones is going to be better. You look at the numbers this year.
You just took all my thoughts there, right there.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead. That's
We've
great.
already had the sponsored segment, Danny.
I was just writing this out. I was thinking the exact same thing as I saying. These guys, they hit on 4 picks in the last 3 years. And Moody, Kuminga, Pods, and Trace Jackson Davis. That's 4 guys. Now they're getting the experience to play. You saw what OKC has been doing. They've been building, and now they're the number 1 seed. These 4 guys. I just did a starting lineup next year. If you did Steph, if you did Steph and Moody in the backcourt, Kuminga and Green at the 3-4, and Trace Jackson at the 5, and then your bench you have Pods and Payton and Quinones. What you need is 3 more players. You need 2 big studs on the wings and a big tall enforcer to back up TJD. And
Looney's going to come back. You have to calculate Looney because he has 1 more year on his deal. So I don't think they're going to be able to move him. I don't think they're going to want to. Do you think he's a worthy backup center, or do you think he's like that bad where you
10 to 12 minutes?
Yeah, he's a great.
I would play center. I would play Moody and Kuminga and Trace 35 plus minutes a night.
And I'm not and someone in the chat said like the youngsters aren't championship material. I'm not saying that you're winning a title, but what I am saying is you're going to feel good about this team. They're still going to be winning games. They're going to be competing for a playoff position. And when you have a team that young playing that good, like you have hope for a year from now, 2 years from now. Like that's not a bad position to be in. This position you're in where you're playing all these 30-something-year-olds and you're going nowhere fast, this is some depressing shit. I want to see the youngsters, man. I'm with you. There's a reason why this Warriors bench was one of the best in the NBA this year. I think they were third in scoring and in overall differential and net rating. Like, and the reason for that are these youngsters. Like the veterans would stink up the joint.
Right. It wasn't really
the youngsters would come in and kick ass, and the results showed. So that's the direction I would honestly like the most.
Grand Admiral Shanahan says send Wiggins and Moody and picks for Jaren Jackson.
Yeah, right. I mean, if Memphis ain't doing that. Sorry,
you think Memphis is?
I mean, how would they do that? I mean, get that right.
I mean, come on.
Yeah.
It's what are we talking about?
Why don't you trade Wiggins for Paolo Banchero? See if the Magic want to do that.
Yeah.
Exactly.
This I think this show kind of indicates that there's going to be a lot of hand wringing. There's going to be a lot of analysis. on what's the right move, going forward. Because there's, when you have guys that are making the kind of money that they have, their roster has so many guys. They're the number one payroll in the NBA. The Warriors have a $200 million payroll. It's highest payroll in the league.
I don't know.
Look at Matt Brotherton in your chat, by the way, because I don't think that's realistic. I don't know how realistic that is, but
Wiggins and Kuminga and Moody and Pods and picks.
And the reason why I look at that, and I think that's an interesting trade proposal, is because if the Bucks collapse again this year, and Dame Lillard says, "I want out of this place. I'm not happy in Milwaukee," which is what a lot of indications are pointing toward. Giannis may not be a Bucks lifer. There is a lot of concern within the Bucks, from what I've heard, that there's no guarantees he's just going to be a loyal,
and he loves Steph.
Except Steph has said repeatedly, "I want to stay here for life." I don't know if Giannis has ever said that, but the point is that's the kind of deal where you can be a contender next year. Like, if you make a trade like that, you will be a contender next year. Giannis is a difference maker. You put Giannis and Steph together, and then you put things around them, and you have a Steve Kerr system for those players. Just sign me up.
That's what I said before you came on, and the chat went nuts on me. Actually, the chat, I said, "Hey, if the Bucks get bounced against the Pacers, which is very possible, Giannis isn't 100%, and not sure if he's even going to play, and Pacers had their number this year. If they get bounced, because this is a players' league, and if Giannis says, 'I want out,' that's it. It always happens. Players say they want out, they find a way to get where they want to go."
Absolutely. And I think that's the kind of haul that Milwaukee would consider. You're throwing a lot
Danny and Cy agreeing is brought to you by Marin Autoglass. MarinAutoglass.com on the web. It doesn't happen. It's like a solar eclipse. It doesn't happen often. But when it does happen, when the planets align, we do have to
those
mix
are
in the
tsunami
sponsor.
deals, though. I mean, think about the bad blood. Oh my God!
Earth-shattering moves.
I mean,
that's the kind of thing Lacob likes to do, though.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but think about, the shift in finance. The Milwaukee Bucks value would drop by hundreds of millions of dollars.
Uh-huh.
You know what I'm saying? So
yeah,
I know you're a Warrior fan. You don't give a crap.
No, why would I?
Right. So my thing is, hey, this is tough business. This is tough stuff. Develop your players.
I'm all for the young guys, man.
Yeah, develop, because they're not that far. Listen, the Kings won the game tonight. Larry made a great point. He said, in a series, I would pick the Warriors. I would too. But if it's a game, if a one-game elimination game, I'm going to take the home team.
Take the young guys. They had more energy for one game.
Listen, Mike Brown, this is what Mike Brown told his team. Mike Brown said, "Fellas, I don't give a crap if we win or lose this game. You better not get punked by the Warriors tonight. You go out and you play a more physical brand of basketball than the Golden State Warriors." That's what they did.
Mm-hmm.
That's why they won. So, listen, you want to move on from Klay? You want to bring him back? I don't think that the Warriors are that far off. They got to improve their rebounding and their defense. They have to make a decision about their young guys. I think Steve Kerr probably cost the Warriors about 4 or 5 games this year just based off his rotations.
Agreed.
I know.
I hated, just getting back into the nuts and bolts of the game we all watched tonight. I hated the way that he sat Steph so long.
Oh my God!
Early in the game.
Yeah.
Why?
You gotta chase this game right now. It's one of those chasing wins that are there. We're always going to hold that against Steve Kerr for saying that we're not chasing wins. This is a game that you got to chase here, Steve. Like if you lose the next game because Steph played 41 minutes in Sacramento, that's basketball. You got to win this game tonight. There is no resting shit in oh no, the team that is at home is off to a real good start and this place is rocking, and I'm going to ask Steph to sit for 8 minutes of the game is getting decided right here, game time?
But, it's funny you say that. I agree with you, but what were you guys thinking at halftime as far as who was going to win the game? I mean, Sacramento had fired their best shot. Golden State had turned the ball over, couldn't get an offensive board at all, and it was a 4-point game at halftime.
Yeah.
I thought there was a very good chance Golden State was going to win this thing by 15.
Agreed.
Yeah, no,
half.
and that is why they still fancy themselves a contender, and they talk about themselves in the way that they do. And they have a reason to believe that they can win any night that they're playing together. I mean, they lose by 24 tonight, 118-94. That's not Klay Thompson scoring.
If you're cold in a 1-game elimination game,
it's nothing short of the worst game Klay Thompson's had ever played for the Warriors. It sucks that it ends like this.
The team was ice cold, and we saw what the Pelicans did last Friday night. They couldn't miss in the second quarter. The Warriors, the game before, couldn't miss against the Lakers. The Kings, Murray was not missing. Davion Mitchell hitting threes. Keon hitting threes, going into the lane and throwing up floaters while he's falling backwards and they're going in. You're not going to – and the Warriors were outplayed from start to finish. So I'm not saying the Kings didn't deserve to win, but the Kings made the Warriors one-dimensional on offense, and they trapped Curry all over the court. I'm shocked that they didn't have an adjustment at halftime for that, because they kept doing it. And the Warriors got a few plays where they got the pick and roll going, but they could not even get the pick and roll. The lobs tonight were not there. Kings would defend that. I just think the Warriors looked tired, almost like they kind of gave it all to try and get to the 8th seed, and they just
yeah, I mean, exactly. They won 9 of 11 down the stretch. They played their playoff. They gave their playoff mojo in the final couple weeks, because that's the way they had to do it, because Draymond missed 25 games and they had to catch up at the end, and they expended all that energy. I mentioned this to Grant and Jerry Reynolds last night. The Warriors reminded me of that horse that gets left in the gate, is getting beat on the backside, burns up tons of energy on the backstretch, and chases everybody down and gets to the top of the stretch and then just hangs and just doesn't fire because they used all their energy on the backstretch. That's what I saw here. They hung. They didn't look like a team that had anything down the stretch, because they didn't, because they won 9 of 11. And it was like, I was talking to Jerry Reynolds and Grant about it, and they're like, well, Golden State's won 9 of 11. And I said, you know what? Really, you got to be really current on this to understand where Golden State is. Yeah, if you look at it from kind of a little bird's eye view, you say, well, Sacramento was not playing well down the stretch. The Warriors were playing really well down the stretch. But if you really watched Golden State in the last 3 or 4 games, and you saw that New Orleans game, and you saw Steph turning it over, mostly because of fatigue, and then you saw him roll that ankle, it's like, you know what? He was spent. They're spent. And to me, Grant and Reynolds, who know basketball really well, but they're watching the Kings, and they weren't as current on the Warriors as I am, as somebody who watches them every night. And I said, they're done, man. They're going to show up with nothing. And sure enough, they showed up with nothing. Now, what's intriguing as hell about the NBA in 2024 is that, one, it's basketball, so you're only 1 or 2 players away from a dramatic different roster. I mean, the Warriors, think about it. They added Trace Jackson Davis and Podziemski. Those are 2 of their best young players right now. They added those guys, and they didn't have a pick till 19. So the NBA draft in 2024 is so speculative, and it's so, it's projectable, and you've got international players and freshmen and all kinds of guys. I was looking at the NCAA tournament, and I don't watch tons of college hoop, but I watched all the tourney. I love that kid from Sacramento, McLean from Duke. Is that his name, McLean?
Yeah.
He's a 6'3" guard who could flat out shoot it. I looked in the NBA draft.net. He's projected to go like 26. I'm looking at the big white guy from Duke, who's the center, Filipowski. Filipowski.
Duke,
yeah. Filipowski's got game. He's like projected to go like 19 or 22.
Where's Edey's projected?
Where?
Edey's projected to go 43.
That might be a guy the Warriors picked up
Edey.
as a backup
Zach Edey.
to Davis.
He's projected to go 6 picks into the second round. My point is that now it's such a projection in the draft. It's not like 1985 where there's 15 really good players in the draft, and damn it, they went 1 through 15. And then if you had the 16th pick, you were screwed. And it's not like that now. Now it's like, you know what? If you got good scouts, if you can, if the Warriors could get a couple picks in the 20s, they may be able to get that combo player, the big man from Duke and the off guard who's from Sacramento, out of Duke, who's like a 6'3" guard. They may be able to add significant players in the draft like they did this year without even really going into the draft with any real capital. So to me, if there's hope for Golden State, it's there. It's that one player can make a huge difference in hoop, and the draft has never been more projectable than it is now. And it's just a matter of, can you do next year what you did this year?
But you do know, Larry, that they don't have a
first-round you're going to be fine.
But
Right.
you do know they don't have a first-round pick this year, right?
No, I realized they didn't have us. There's been years where they bought a second-round pick.
That's true.
But
Yeah,
this
you
is
can't
a
do that anymore
franchise
with
that drafted Monte Ellis in the second round,
Yeah.
Gilbert Arenas in the second round, Draymond Green in the second round. It can be done. This isn't 1985 where, man, you just got to wait till you're bad and get in the lottery. No, that's not the way it is anymore. So, I'm not saying it's going to happen. I'm just saying
It's possible.
it's possible.
Yeah.
And you have good scouts and you have the right situation come together. I mean, the Warriors got in Trace Jackson Davis a player who was better than James Wiseman, and they got him at 57. There's only 60 picks in the entire freaking draft.
Yeah.
So that was an
Warriors-
amazing get.
Look, I think the Warriors need to lean into the market of their older college players than looking for the raw freshmen. They need experience. Look, Trace Jackson
ready to go.
Trace Jackson Davis showed up. He's the first Warriors rookie to be a grown man in a long time. He really is. And that's why I'm disappointed that the grown man that is this fundamentally sound player didn't get the second bite at tonight's apple. That bothers me.
It bothers me too. Yeah.
But I can't wait to see the player he is 3 years from now, because he was going through Trace's entire development. I mean, there's no player I'm more familiar with. I watched him every game he's played since his freshman year at Indiana.
Yeah.
And that includes every Warrior game now, every program. He goes through these bursts of he's clearly taking a step forward right here, right now. It's happening right now. And I felt like we were really getting one at the end of the year from him. And if he picks up next year with that sort of, oh man, he's getting better by the week here. He's getting better by the road trip. He's getting better by the airline flight.
Let me give you a name. He's probably not going to get drafted, right? He's had a really, really good year. Armando Bacot from North Carolina. This dude is 6'10", 6'11". People thought he was a stiff. He went back to Carolina and got a bunch of NIL money this year. And yet his game is still within 5 to 7 feet. But he's a good defensive rebounder. He's a low post scorer. He's an intelligent kid that you might be able to sign as a free agent. My whole thing is the Warriors' biggest challenge is what you guys have said all night. They need to redistribute the minutes.
Mm-hmm.
They need to make a commitment to certain players that they're not committed to right now. There's a guy on Toronto who went to Duke, the 2 guard, who's kind of out of the mix now. His father played in the league. What's his name? I can't think of his name. Schuster Judge. Yeah, he plays on the Raptors. Played on Portland first. Came to the league and played on Portland. Now he's on Toronto. I can't think of his name right now.
Trent.
Not Simons,
Trent.
is it?
Trent.
Oh,
Gary Trent?
Gary Trent.
Yeah.
Jonte Porter.
Yeah, right.
That's a crazy story, by the way.
Yeah,
Not talked about enough.
But
Not
listen,
talked about enough.
But listen, Trent is a guy who the Warriors might take a look at. He's not going to cost a whole lot of money. He shoots the hell out of basketball. If you want to move on from Klay, fine. Okay? But make a commitment with regards to how you're going to play. Develop a tough team. The Warriors made a lot of mental mistakes this year that was befuddling to me. So I don't think that they're that far off. I honestly don't. Are they going to win a championship? The Lakers, ironically, can implode before our eyes. Their best player is a 40-year-old guy named LeBron James. We don't know when the floor is going to fall out on him, but probably sooner than later.
It falls out on the Lakers in the next week and a half.
I'll give you another sleeper in the draft that I know is going to be a damn good NBA player. And I'm looking at NBAdraft.net, and he's listed at 56. 56. And if you watch College Hoop, you know this kid. Baylor Shireman for Creighton.
Oh, yeah.
That guy can flat out shoot the basketball, man.
Oh, my God, he can shoot.
He's an amazing shooter. He's like a Klay
is.
Thompson type shooter. He's 6'7", 2 guard who can flat out shoot the basketball.
Yeah.
I mean, that guy squares the shoulders. That shot's down, and he's supposedly going late second round. So, emphasize skill. I agree with Damon wholeheartedly on this. Don't be looking for the bouncy freshman. Go look for the guy who's played like a Baylor Shireman, who knows how to play and knows how to play off the ball and can play in a curse system where there's body movement and ball movement, and hunt those guys down and draft them. They're probably not that far away.
Draft that white boy from Oakland who shot lights out threes in the NCAA tournament. Nobody's drafting him. That guy can either work for State Farm Insurance or he can be in a State Farm Insurance commercial. All you're going to do is we're just going to ask you to snipe, dude. Just get shots off. You
You talking about that guy looked like a 45-year-old cop, or
the guy who looked like he's a mailman.
That guy looked like somebody's fireman.
Where's the kid from Tennessee? Connect top 10? Is he listed
top
in the top
3?
10?
Yeah, Connect's going.
Yeah. Dang.
Yeah, no, the top of the draft, he's supposedly going third. But I'm just saying, Baylor Shireman is a that guy can flat out shoot the basketball.
Yeah,
and you want to find some younger guys coming off the bench, go with skill. All right, we're coming down to the end here, but I do want to get the supers out of the way because we do have a bunch of them here. We'll hit and then we'll jet. We got this one from MGM Productions. Just like Brock Purdy, Larry was spot on about the Kings tonight. End of a dynasty, light the beam. Fuck the beam.
You know what, though? Congratulations to the Kings. They got literally nothing in their entire existence. I mean, do you think that they win the next game in New Orleans? I don't.
Are
they going to hang a banner? Are they going to hang a banner? We beat the Warriors in the 9-10. Does the 9-10 win over the Warriors get a banner?
Yes.
Doug Christie is not walking through that door. Though he was on the Kings bench. All right, we got this one from MGM Productions. If you were the Kings GM, how would you improve the team? I don't care about the Kings. Screw them.
Trade De'Aaron Fox for Tyrese Halliburton.
Yeah, I was very disappointed. Yeah, I was very disappointed in De'Aaron Fox. I'll tell you, who came up big tonight was HB.
Great call.
HB came up big.
Yeah.
All the talk about HB this and HB that. Senior softball games, light the effing beam. All right. Whoever came up with,
I don't mind the beam at all.
Oh, it's an awesome
like the beam. It's like the world's biggest lightsaber. It's pretty cool.
I wish the Warriors would steal the beam and just the whole concept. It'd be awesome.
What I love, so the Giants, they installed all those LED lights, and then no one hits a home run, and they can't flash them not once in their home game.
Maybe that's the solution. Hire Farhan. Chef A says Jonathan Kuminga says he wants to be like Kobe Bryant. Well, then stop effing pouting when you don't get a foul called for you and don't get back on D, nor get rebounds.
There you go, Chef Amy. Just dropping
my response. I'd like to follow up by that and saying, what about every other player who's doing that for the Warriors as well? It produces far less than a 21-year-old Jonathan Kuminga. I still do not understand the people out there who pick on Kuminga. It's criticize him in 2-3 years when we know what we're going to get. This
Well,
kid could still end up being a superstar.
It's the kind of people that walk through the nursery at the at the hospital. You're never gonna amount to shit. You're just wrapped up laying there. You're never gonna. I mean,
Look,
the kid
guys showed up and played tonight: Steph Curry, Jonathan Kuminga, and Moses Moody. That's it.
Seriously,
Kuminga kept him in the game.
Yeah,
I love Kuminga. I love Kuminga.
Moody had a great night too.
Kuminga's playing great ball.
Yeah.
Nolo Yu says Warriors will definitely beat the Kings. Larry XD.
Was that early today? Is that an early post or?
I have no idea what that is because I said the Kings would definitely beat the Warriors.
I think he might have been a Warriors fan who wanted to say the Pelicans will definitely beat the Kings.
Gotcha.
Maybe that was.
There you go. I'm old Greg says Klay is a national effing treasure. Watch your dirty but sexy mouth, Damon. Kisses and take a shot for the Dubs next year. All right.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm very freaked
How
out.
do you react to that? I mean, are you flattered?
I'm not sure. I'm not
sure. I feel pretty. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, it's good ego boost. Yeah,
very twisted. I'm old Greg says Larry must be smoking the good stuff. Steph all day.
Oh, with all that trade talk. Yeah. That was Larry. You were treading in some dangerous water there for a while, man. Yeah,
there you go. You're not going to see this guy filling in on 95.7 anytime soon. By the way, I did tune into Dibbs and Willard, and they both said, I can see the Warriors playing Friday night.
People need to be aware as well that station is a Warriors propaganda machine. I mean, they are literally the Warriors flagship station. I'm not saying, Damon, when you worked there, that they were telling, I mean, you weren't being told to do pro Warriors content. I'm guessing. I don't know. You worked there a long time, but they are the Warriors flagship, right? I mean, they're way too positive.
Look at it this way. They were the Warriors flagship when I was there, but that station didn't sound like it does now.
Right. Thank you.
And that's all I have to say about that.
Yeah, there you go.
It's your boy PK Man OG says, Larry, call your brother on. Yeah, screw him.
Oh. Is your brother happy? He's
a Kings fan. He's the kind of guy that would send me a text that says "light the beam," that kind of thing.
Did he do that though? I mean, have you heard from him? Any?
No, I think he must have an early morning tomorrow.
Gotcha.
He's
Larry. We have an early morning tomorrow. Let's go.
That's right. We're almost ready to wrap this up. We're getting down to the stretch. Billy DeBono says, been receiving text all night from Kings fans. The dynasty is over, which validates it was indeed a dynasty. So many great Warrior memories with my belated father. Nothing lasts forever. Billy, we sorry that your father is no longer with us, but you don't need Kings fans texting you to tell you it was a dynasty. It was a dynasty. James Foster says Steph can't make enough impact on defense for a guy making 55 to 60 million. He can score and shoot, but so can a lot of guys.
Oh, come on.
There you go, James Foster. And he follows it up with this one. How have the last two season-ending games gone for Klay? Yeah.
Just to add to that, because I actually decided to look up Klay's postseason last year. The last 3 games of the playoffs last season, he averaged 9 points per game. He was 7 of 27 from deep. That's 25%. He was 9 of 42 overall from the field. That was 21%, while averaging 38.7 minutes per game. This started a year ago. This is now the 4th playoff game in a row where he has laid a massive, stinky, fly-covered pile of shit.
And on that note,
fly covered.
Let's call it quits. Hey, thanks to everybody. Thanks to Pig and a Pickle. Thanks to Marin Auto Glass. Thanks to Underdog Fantasy. Thanks to Dan and Cy getting along throughout the stream.
It's been a while now. It's been a while, though, man. It's a trend.
It's been a while. Nobody was insulted. Everybody leaves happy. Sharp Corner, Sports Cards, and Collectibles. Thanks to them as well. And this is the part of the show where I like to help everybody promote their channel. Danny, we'll start with you. Tell us when you're going next, when you're streaming next. We'll move Danny to the center of the screen. Where can people find your channel? When do you stream again?
Yeah, we will stream tomorrow night. Giants are playing a morning game tomorrow, 9:40. Nobody that's in my chat is generally around in the midday because they're working. So we'll go tomorrow night, 8:00, and we will be covering the Giants all year long. And
that sounds like a threat.
Yeah, it's going about well as I thought it would so far. I predicted they'd be 12-18 this month to start the season. It's where I felt like this team was headed. And I think I'm going to be pretty close.
What's Jung Hoo hitting?
Jung Hoo is he's raised his average up. I think he's in the mid. He's around 250-ish, somewhere
He's
in
like
there.
240 something, right? 240 and change.
Yeah, I didn't look what the what
19 million a year for 240. That's money well spent.
It's early. I mean, it's early with that. He is hitting 257.
257.
Their problems. He's
he's hitting the 3-hole today, I believe. I believe he hit in the 3-hole.
I'll say this is what I said in the beginning. Matt Chapman is unbelievable at defense. I told everybody he's not going to give you much offense. He hit a home run and a double tonight, but he strikes out all the time. He's going to hit you 230, maybe knock in 60 to 70 runs and hit you 20 to 23 homers. He's going to play stellar defense, but the Giants don't have anybody to drive guys in when they're guys on base. They're slow. Pitching is going to keep them in games.
They're slow, but they lack power.
Yeah. Hey, if the lineup stays the way it is, I don't think it's a playoff team. If they bring up Luciano at some point, Matos, Ramos, make a trade, get rid of Yaz playing and get somebody that can hit at shortstop, keep Ahmed for late inning defense. Giants make the playoffs, they will be dangerous with their pitching. But they're not going to make the playoffs with this lineup. That's my take.
Hey, let's just say it the way it is. They're 2 bats away, but those bats are Ruth and Garrick. All right, Danny, have a great night. We'll talk to you soon.
Thanks. All right.
There you go. The great Dan Coach Million. Cy, nobody is more locked on Warrior basketball than you. When will you be locking next?
That's a great question. Today is it Tuesday? Tuesday, April 16th. Now it's to the 17th. The end of the Golden State Warriors dynasty. Important day to note.
Tomorrow,
I just follow me on Threads. Follow me on Threads at Dogwild. That's where I post all my updates. Locked On's a daily program. So hopefully some of you folks will be coming on soon so we can talk about the demise of the dynasty and what comes next. Thanks for having me.
Have a great night. Good to talk to you, brother.
You guys. Good night.
There you go. The great Cy Satsis. D, we are going to be live tomorrow. And I may just sit here and wait for the show. It's easier than wrapping it all up.
Well, at least we would start on time if that happened. But
8:45 tomorrow.
8:45 tomorrow. Looking forward to seeing everybody back on Wake Up. Hey, Trent Taylor's back, Larry.
Trent Taylor's back. We've got stuff to talk about.
We got news. We got Brock Purdy chasing off coyotes, for God's sakes. We got Trent Taylor back. So we got a little Wake Up, and I'm sure we'll get back into Warriors and Kings after we've had a night to sleep on it. I'm sure that's part of the show.
Will the kids be watched, or will there be chunk blowage coming?
I hope not. I hope we're good. And it's a quiet night in the household. But yes, we'll get the new carpet soon. I'll give you an update. The old carpet took one for the team. It really tied the room together, but it had to go. As always, it's a pleasure, brother. Let me give a little love to Ike's. Let me tell you, it's the best sandwich you're going to get anywhere. Next time you're thinking about a sandwich for lunch, go to Ike's. That's my guy right there. Next time you want to wash it down with a great Guinness in San Francisco, head to the Dubliner West Portal. Larry, my show is sponsored by a great San Francisco bar because it comes from San Francisco. And I love having them aboard as well. And like and subscribe, my good friends. Great to see you, Frank. It had been a long time since we've done a show together. Nice to talk with you again, man. You know hoops, so it's always a pleasure. Great to see Dan and Cyrus too. Larry, see you tomorrow morning, brother. Take care.
See you tomorrow morning, brother.
Take care,
there you go. And Frank, you're the last guy in the room, and I really appreciate you jumping in. I know you were. It took you a while to drive from where you were at. We were watching it to join us, but I appreciate you. All the good comments and a lot of great stuff. You got a final thought on the night as we call this to a close? We're 2 hours and 13 minutes in. Still almost 4,000 people hanging out at some point watching this thing on one platform or another.
Yeah. I love the Sacramento Kings fans more than I like the team. Sacramento game must start. And I'm happy for those fans because Many of them are my friends. I think that they probably needed this win more than the Warriors. I mean, I read so many tweets and I hear so many comments about what a horrible coach Mike Brown is. I'm like, stop it, people. Stop it.
He's a great guy and a very good coach.
Yeah. So I mean, be appreciative of the fact that you have a guy who knows what the hell he's doing. You're probably going to lose on Friday, but this was a nice step forward for the Kings franchise, and certainly a good times in Sacramento for their fans. I'm in a good place because I'm a Knicks fan. You know, I love Dante DiVincenzo. You know that. I love that guy. Yeah. And he's gone to New York and lighted that city on fire, along with Jalen Brunson. So I'm going to be following the NBA playoffs. I'll probably come on Friday, certainly on Sundays. Never miss an opportunity to be on the Kreuger Show. I want to thank you for offering me the opportunity. Follow me at Big Frank Red. And I mean, you see the In the Dungeon show in big letters there. Check me out. I usually go on X or Twitter and let people know when my show is going to be on. So if you follow me, then you'll find out. Beyond that, everything is great, man. And continued success. I love to pop in on the very shows that you do and learn about the inner workings of the 49ers and football in general. And I'll be talking football as well. The draft is in 8 days. A lot of interesting things happening. You don't talk about the guy who I love a lot.
Who's that?
The wide receiver from Florida State.
Keon Coleman.
I love him.
Huge catch radius. He didn't run a great 40. I think he ran like 4.6. But
yeah, I mean, which is why I love him even more.
Yeah, but he's got a huge catch radius.
Oh my God, Jerry Rice ran a 4.6. Yeah. So Keon Clark, I think, is a guy. I mean,
Keon Coleman.
I'm Keon Coleman. He reminds me of Third and Jennings, man. That's what it reminds me of. He catches the ball over the middle. Those 50-50 balls, he's up in the air corralling most of those passes. He's a tough guy. He blocks. Watch that guy. You know, he's outstanding. He really is.
We'd love to have you on. You know, I'll do a few basketball shows during the finals, but I'd love to have you on, you know, in and around the draft next week. If you want to come on, we're going to be doing a bunch of draft stuff all throughout, you know, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, all the stuff, you know, rehashing it in the week after. So I'll dial you up and we'll get you on and we'll chop it up.
Appreciate you, brother. Good night. Take care.
Appreciate you as well. Thanks, Frank. Have a great night. The great Frank Red. All right. That's going to do it for us. Man, really enjoyable stream tonight. You know, yeah, I was highlighting off the rip that I was right because I'm a big mouth know-it-all. And I told Grant and Jerry Reynolds yesterday the Kings are taking the Warriors down. And sure enough, it happened. And but you know what I really love? I really love some of these post games where we can work a bunch of people in and have kind of a, I don't know, it kind of strikes me as almost like a, you know, kind of a bar room chat where we're all kind of sitting around just kind of, you know, spitting it out and you know, giving our opinions, and there's no rhyme or reason and there's no topics, and we're just kind of free forming. So I hope you guys enjoyed the stream. We got a lot going on the rest of the week on the channel, and let me just give you the quick rundown of what we have going on before I bolt for the door, because we do have a lot of stuff going on. Okay, so today is Tuesday, and we just did our Warriors Kings post game. Tomorrow morning at 8:45, Damon Bruce will be in the house, and we'll do a co-stream on the Niners tomorrow morning at 8:45, and then I've got youth baseball tomorrow from 5:30 to 7:30. So right around 8 o'clock, 8:30 tomorrow night, Kev will be back, and we'll do our call-in show. We'll talk Niners with Kev, who's back from Coachella, and we'll do stuff with my oldest son, who I love dearly, and the producer of the show, and I just call him Boss Man. And then Thursday, Eric Crocker is going to be in the house. Croc and I are going to get together at 11 a.m. on Thursday morning and chop it up on the Niners. I love talking ball with Croc. And then hopefully Vish and I connect on Thursday night as well for a little more Niners streaming. Also, I've got both my sons playing baseball, not that you guys care about that, but I'll be watching that on Thursday. And then Friday is going to be a huge day on the show. We've got at 8:45, Damon Bruce is going to stop by. We'll do our football deal. At 10:45, Chase Sr. is going to be by. In the early afternoon, Sione Vaki from Utah is going to be by. And he's working out for the Niners, I think, tomorrow. And then Sione's going to join me on Friday. And we're either going to tape it out here in Walnut Creek because he's out here in the Bay, or we might go live. So I'm not sure if he'll be live or taped, but we'll have Sione Vaki. And then Matt Barrows is going to join me in the afternoon as we look ahead to the NFL draft. And then at 6 o'clock on Friday, me and Brian Peacock are going to stream. So I'm looking forward to that. So that's a big Friday is going to be a huge day. Damon, Chase Sr., Matt Barrows, Brian Peacock, and Sione Vaki. Coach and I are going to hook up hopefully on Saturday morning and talk some ball. And coming up as far as next week on the draft, I'm going to hook up with Greg Papa, with John Lund, with Lorenzo Neal, Sterling Bennett from 95.7 The Game. Maybe John Dickinson. We got a lot of people to touch base with. And then of course, draft coverage will be all, Thursday night we'll be covering the draft, probably from Santa Clara. I'm not sure if I'm going to go down there or not, but then Friday night and then Saturday, and we'll be doing videos on all the Niner picks. So keep it locked right here on the Krug Show for all of your NFL draft coverage. So we got a lot going on. Thanks to everybody. Kyle McKiernan in the chat says, thanks, Larry. I got my custom Kreuger shirt, shirt front, the free one you gave me at Pig and a Pickle. There you go. Kyle, good to see you, bro. Glad to see you're in the chat. Shardal, I see you. Hope you're having a great night. Shardal, sorry I couldn't get you in here tonight, but we just had so many people. But I know, Shardal, you want to jump in on the Krug Show, and we'll try to get you in there if we can. And then Mark Graves also had a comment in here. Do I have Graves? Where's Graves? Graves says, 8 hours and 30 minutes to go for more Larry. That's right. We'll be back with you tomorrow morning with Damon Bruce at 8:45. So thanks to the 3,747 people that are still sitting there. If you haven't hit like and subscribe, please do. If you hit like every time, more people find it in the algorithm. If you hit subscribe every time we go live, you'll get a little notification that we're going live, and you can jump in and not miss any of the action on the Krug Show. So really enjoying the channel. We're sitting here as we speak at, let's see if it updates, I think 41,000 and change. So if everybody can hit like and subscribe, if you haven't subscribed yet, I would appreciate it. Thanks to our sponsors, Pig and a Pickle, the title sponsor of the Krug Show. Thanks to Damon and Mary, the owner of Pig and a Pickle. If you want to support the channel and you're in the Bay and you're thinking, how do I support the Krug Show? Go to Pig and a Pickle. Go get a barbecue sandwich at Pig and a Pickle. Tell them that Krug sent you. Marin Auto Glass is also one of our sponsors. Thanks to Saeed, the owner of Marin Auto Glass. Thanks to Underdog Fantasy. Check the link in the description. Use that promo code Krug, and they'll match you up to your first $100. And, of course, thanks to Sharp Corners, Sports Cards, and Collectibles, and my good friend Anthony Catania, who's down there on the Monterey Peninsula, and give him a call or check them out. They do incredible stuff, and great guy, and they really have a lot of, if you're a sports cards collectible person, you're going to love Sharp Corner Sports Cards and Collectibles. And we probably should tell you that I believe it's every Friday, the first Friday of every month from May through September, down there on the Monterey Peninsula from 6 to 9 p.m. They have free admission. Food is included. Customers there at the collectible store can bring all sports cards, old and new, for buying, selling, and trading. And it's a trade night. It's going to happen every first Friday during the summer months. So May, June, July, August, and September in Pacific Grove. And for more details, give Anthony Catania a call. And Anthony's a great guy and a proud sponsor of the show. And, of course, you can reach Anthony at 831-5 521-5264. So thanks to Sharp Corners, Sports Cards, and Collectibles for being a proud sponsor of the Krug Show. We got a couple other sponsors. They'll be joining the mix next week. We're excited to tell you about that, but we won't give it away just yet. And thanks to everybody. Really fun show. I love doing this stuff. I watched the Warrior game all night, so now I'm going to go watch a little bit of the Giants, against the Marlins on a little speed deal, and then hit the hay and get up in the morning. So have a great night, everybody. Thank you for supporting the Krug Show. I'm loving it. I hope you guys are loving it as well. And until tomorrow, peace.
Yeah, never met a man I've been scared of. Careful, you gon'